Pokémon, I became a Pikachu. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 26 Mu Chen's Happiness. Haha, great, Pikachu, you're finally awake. Once again, Mu Chen tragically became a toy for the chubby Blissey, but he finally recovered. Having just escaped Blissy's fat body, Mu Chen fell into Ash's clutches. Pikachu, covered in sweat, who gave you the courage to hug me? Sizzle, without further ado, the electric shock attack began. Oh, congratulations, Ash, it seems Pikachu has truly recovered this time. Seeing Pikachu so energetic, Misty, standing next to Ash, quickly covered her mouth and chuckled. Ha ha ha, of course, Pikachu is incredibly resilient. How could such a small injury possibly trouble it? With Ash's amazing physique, the electric shock attack was no problem at all. Seeing his beloved Pikachu healthy again was more important than anything else. Pikachu, hearing Ash's idiotic words, Mu Chen rolled his eyes helplessly. Damn it, my physique? I'm just incredibly unlucky. During his treatment, Mu Chen recalled everything. He had been accidentally injured by Starmie's surf attack. It was a truly heartbreaking story. Fortunately, he managed to complete the mission. And this time, the system's random selection was very reliable, allocating 5 base stat points to HP. For Mu Chen, any of the 6 stats, HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed, as long as they were allocated to attack, was perfectly acceptable. Now, after several system boosts, Mu Chen's base stats had reached 325, somewhat shedding the image of a weakling. Ash, now that Pikachu's alright, let's go to the gym. My sisters are waiting for you. Seeing Pikachu regain its energy, besides Ash, Misty was naturally the happiest. Ah, right. The gym challenge isn't over yet. Hearing Misty's reminder, Ash realized his match had been interrupted halfway through. Pikachu, what the hell? Still fighting? Hearing Ash's words, Mu Chen nearly fainted. He'd witnessed the power of Starmie's powerful move. This stubborn kid actually wanted to challenge them? However, Mu Chen didn't realize that with Starmie's current abilities, using such a powerful move was extremely difficult. Normally, Misty would never let Starmie use such a powerful move that would overexert it, especially not in a gym challenge. Who told you there was a match? Come with me to the gym as a reward for helping us defeat Team Rocket. You can have the badge. Oh, and let me hold Pikachu. Hearing Ash's battle-crazed reply, Misty rolled her eyes. The gym was damaged. Repairs would take who knows how long. How could they compete? Pikachu, hooray. Xiaoxia, you're my goddess. Hearing Xiaoxia's words, Mu Chen became excited. Ha ha ha, I knew it. He'd only just recovered. How could he possibly have to compete again? In a flash, Mu Chen jumped into Xiaoxia's arms. Although she wasn't particularly beautiful, she was still a young lady, and her fragrance was pleasant, wasn't it? With a bewildered Xiaoxia in tow, Xiaoxia quickly returned to the gym. Big sister, look who's here. As soon as she saw her big sister Sakura, Xiaoxia lifted Pikachu, who was nestled in her arms, high in the air. Xiaoxia was still quite puzzled. Why was Pikachu perfectly fine before, but now, after only a short while, it seemed listless again? However, how could Xiaoxia know? As the two were traveling, Mu Chen suddenly remembered something. Damn it! I missed another chance to observe Musashi. Because of the black mist, Mu Chen hadn't even noticed the oncoming surf. So observing Musashi was out of the question. Mu Chen was almost obsessed with the color of Pikachu. He'd seen Hanako's color the first time, so why was it so hard to see Musashi's? Ah, this is our hero. Upon seeing Pikachu arrive, Sakura immediately put down her broom, took Pikachu, and hugged it tightly. It turned out that after taking Pikachu and Starmie to the gym for treatment, Sakura and the others had checked the gym's security footage. From the footage, they understood the whole story. Although Pikachu had only released an electric shock into the pool, it was because of this shock that Misty's Starmie was spared. The 4 Cerulean sisters were naturally extremely grateful. Pika, Holy crap. As expected of the eldest sister, she's got guts. At this moment, Mu Chen completely let go of his obsession and forgot about Musashi. Damn, so happy, so soft, being held tightly in Sakura's arms, Mu Chen felt like he had the whole world. However, it wouldn't be in Mu Chen's nature not to take the opportunity to do something. Because Sakura's dress had a high neckline, Mu Chen naturally had no chance to make an attack. But that didn't stop Mu Chen from feeling it. He reached out his little hands and casually rubbed it. Of course, Mu Chen did it very discreetly, and Sakura, who was in the midst of excitement, didn't notice anything. Okay, big sister, let me hug Pikachu too, it's so cute. Seeing her big sister hugging it endlessly, the second oldest of the four sisters, Aim, couldn't stand it. How could she let her enjoy such a cute little guy all to herself? With that, Aim took Pikachu from Sakura's hands. Happiness, an endless feeling of happiness was overwhelming Mu Chen. Although this young lady wasn't as large as the previous one, it seemed to be much firmer. This young lady is so bouncy. Leaning on her little hands, Mu Chen was carefully examining it. Pikachu, a happy cry rang out. Of course, this was also a cry of encouragement. The eldest and second eldest have already been hugged, so third eldest, why aren't you idle? Clearly, Mu Chen wasn't satisfied and planned to take all four sisters in one go. Hey, this little guy is so cute, let me hug him too. Hearing Pikachu's adorable cry, the third eldest, Mu Chen, came over. Holy crap! It's the third eldest? Being held in Mu Chen's arms, Mu Chen realized that among the four sisters, the most magnificent was actually the third eldest, Mu Chen. At this moment, Mu Chen was completely enveloped in a feeling of happiness. Chapter 27, preparing to head to Zheng Wei's lighthouse. It was now the third day since Ash and his friends left Cerulean City. Saying goodbye to the three incredibly enthusiastic young ladies naturally made Mu Chen feel down. But that wasn't the main reason. Misty had chosen to travel with Ash to avoid the ladies who were looking for free labor. Although Misty was currently hugging him affectionately, and although 3 days had passed and he had recovered from the sadness of parting with the ladies, Mu Chen was still incredibly melancholy. Damn it. There were only 10 days left until the 1-month deadline for the mission, and his ugly Pokémon, Felhunter, still hadn't shown any reaction. Although Mu Chen knew that Pokémon evolution was definitely not easy, especially for a weakling like Felhunter to evolve into a slender goddess like Melodic. This was a qualitative leap. But, forced by the mission, despite knowing it was impossible, Mu Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. After all, this concerned his life's most important matter. Now, less than half the time remains until the mission's deadline, but looking at the still motionless Feraligator, Mu Chen increasingly feels that he's doomed. Pikachu, looking down at his poor little Tinny, Mu Chen can only lament the unfairness of fate. Tinny, it's not that your brother isn't trying, it's just that this ugly fish is useless. Ash, where are you going? If we're going to challenge a gym, we should take this route, right? I remember, this route leads to Vermilion City. At a fork in the road, Misty questioned Ash, who was leading the way. Does Ash even know how to read a map? The map clearly marks the left route to Vermilion City, so why is he taking the right one? I remember that if we take the right route, the beach isn't far away, right? That's right. This is the path I'm going to take. Xiaoxia, look, it's marked on the map. If we keep going this way, we'll reach Bright's lighthouse. I heard that a giant ancient Pokémon was spotted there. I want to go see it. Holy crap. Mu Chen, who was still feeling sorry for himself, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine after hearing Xiao Zi's words. Why? I have a bad feeling. Based on Mu Chen's understanding of the system's behavior, if he suddenly arrived at some special place, or suddenly encountered some special Pokémon, then the system would definitely not let him off the hook. Ding ding, random mission activated. Giant Ancient Dragonite. Mission requirement, challenge the Ancient Dragonite when it appears. Mission reward, learn Thunderbolt. Failure penalty, all base stats decrease by 10 points, randomly shorten a certain part of the body by 2 centimeters. Note, friendly reminder, the consequences of provoking the Ancient Dragonite are unknown, please bear any unexpected situations yourself. Holy crap. Upon hearing the system task, Mu Chen finally couldn't hold back and cursed loudly. This damn system is clearly trying to kill me. And, to prevent me from giving up, it even increased the penalty? A 2 centimeter reduction was already enough to kill Mu Chen, and now it's reducing all stats by 10? Keep in mind, Mu Chen's total base stats are only 320. A 10-point reduction means he'll only have 260 left. This is ridiculous. Are you really planning to make me fight that ugly Polyearth? For his own happiness, for his own life, Mu Chen knew this was forcing him to fight that ancient Dragonite. But the problem is it even worth a fight? What's my physique? What's that ancient Dragonite's physique? It's probably enough for it to blow me away with a single breath. Ah. You're planning to go to Zhengwei's lighthouse? That ancient Pokemon is just a legend, you actually believe it? Hearing Xiao Zhi's answer, Xiao Xiao was equally surprised. This guy, he's really bold. Just a legend, and he's going to go through all that trouble to see it? Even if the legend is true, what are you planning to do? Are you thinking of capturing it? Don't be ridiculous. Ancient Pokemon are legendary beings in the Kanto region, their rarity is absolutely SSS level. Of course, absolute rarity means absolute power. Xiao Xia knew that, not to mention that giant ancient Pokemon, even a random ordinary ancient Pokemon, could easily crush the two of them. They were simply not on the same level. Anyway, we're on a trip, whether it's true or not, we have to go see it. Xiao Zhi didn't care whether the legend was true or not. He was on a trip, and with such excitement to see, how could he not go? Okay, then we'll. Oops, seeing Xiao Zhi's resolute attitude, Xiao naturally had no choice but to acquiesce. But just as she reluctantly answered, a roar suddenly came from behind her. Immediately afterwards, a bright red convertible sports car sped past Xiao. Pikachu, Mu Chen, who was lamenting the unfairness of fate, was furious. Because Xiao hadn't noticed behind her, she was startled by the sudden appearance of the sports car. As a result of being startled, Xiao naturally threw the Pikachu in her arms far away. At this moment, Mu Chen's attention was entirely focused on the system task, and he hadn't noticed the situation around him at all. Suddenly being lifted into the air, Mu Chen was still completely unaware. It wasn't until Mu Chen's not-so-handsome face made its first intimate contact with the ground that he realized what had happened. Oops. I'm sorry Pikachu, I didn't mean to. Seeing that Pikachu had been thrown away, Xiao didn't care about anything else and quickly rushed over with an apologetic expression. Mu Chen naturally wouldn't be angry with Xiao, a young lady with long legs. His anger was directed at the boy who had parked his sports car sideways and was arrogantly showing off in front of Ash. Ha, Ash, you're really in a sorry state. I heard you got a Cerulean City gym badge as a handout. This arrogant boy was none other than Professor Oak's grandson, a true blue rich kid, Gary. He and Ash had been rivals since childhood. Previously in Pallet Town, Ash had also had a verbal altercation with Gary before setting off. Of course, at the time, Mu Chen, engrossed in Hanako, completely ignored it. But unexpectedly, he'd run into this guy here now. Gary. You bumped into Misty and hurt Pikachu. I demand an apology. Ash had gotten the Cerulean City badge for no apparent reason and naturally didn't bother arguing with Gary. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Xiao gets hit by a water gun. Pidgeotto, I choose you. Having failed to negotiate with Gary, Ash ultimately resorted to force. As a Pokemon trainer, Gary, of course, wouldn't hesitate. After all, there were several girls cheering him on in the sports car. Ash, today I'll show you just how big the gap is between us. Go, Wartortle. As Professor Oak's grandson, Gary's resources naturally far surpassed others. His starter Pokemon was Squirtle, which had now successfully evolved into Wartortle. Came, at Gary's summons, a 1-meter-tall, deep blue turtle Pokemon appeared before him. Pidgeotto, use quick attack. Ash, inferior to Gary in every way, was too lazy to waste words. A direct attack was the most practical approach. Beep, at Ash's command, the Pidgeotto, hovering in the air, instantly transformed into a bolt of lightning, charging towards Wartortle. Watered, Bubble Beam. Shoot it down. Encouraged by the cheerleaders, Gary was incredibly enthusiastic. Came, with a cry, Wartortle unleashed a series of bubble-like beams of light, shooting them at the oncoming Pidgeotto. While Ash and Gary were engaged in a fierce battle, Mu Chen, one of the participants, had his attention elsewhere. Holy crap! This one's pretty good. Big enough. Holy crap! This one's not bad either. Legs raised so high, but why are they wearing safety shorts? Holy crap! Holy crap! This one's even more amazing. That hopping around is making me dizzy. Clearly, Mu Chen's attention was completely drawn to the cheerleaders behind Gary. Having gained some experience, Mu Chen was no longer as mindless as when he first arrived in this world, charging at any pretty girl he saw. However, this didn't stop him from appreciatively observing every pretty girl who appeared before him. However, after looking for a while, Mu Chen suddenly felt bored. Of course, this wasn't because Mu Chen was tired of seeing beautiful women. It was simply because Mu Chen suddenly felt envious and jealous of Xiao Mao. Damn it, the morale was completely different when fighting with a few pretty girls. No way, I'm going to train my own army of pretty girls too. Mu Chen knew that in his current state, it was completely unrealistic to have such long-legged, wavy-haired human girls with him. Therefore, Mu Chen decided to start with Pokémon. Did the system tell me to target Failfish? Great. Then she'll be my first cheering squad of pretty girls. Mu Chen believed that with its series of quests, he would definitely have more than just a melodic with a slender waist in the future. Did the system say that the upgrade was based on my personality? HMPH. Do you think I don't know my personality? Come on. Come on. I swear, I will definitely establish a Pokémon cheering squad of pretty girls. Just imagining himself fighting in front of others, with several pretty girls cheering him on from behind, Mu Chen was mesmerized. Alright, I remember, you're only allowed a maximum of 6 Pokémon in a battle, right? Looks like I'll have to be careful from now on. I absolutely can't let that idiot Ash catch those useless Pokémon like Pidgeotto to take up space. Ash's Pokémon, besides mine, must all be girls. Oops. Just as Mu Chen was secretly making his vow for the future, Misty's exclamation suddenly rang out. Attracted by the exclamation, Mu Chen quickly turned his head. It turned out that a small accident had occurred during Ash's battle with Gary. Driven by Ash's indomitable spirit, Pidgeotto relentlessly charged at Wartortle again and again. The price of these charges was being constantly repelled by Wartortle's various moves. Seeing that he couldn't achieve the desired results, Ash desperately tried to change tactics, having Pidgeotto use a move like U-turn to harass the enemy. But Alice, Wartortle's shell wasn't just for show. Faced with Pidgeotto's attack, Gary's Wartortle completely neutralized it with a single hardened move. Gary even managed to have Wartortle use Water Gun while Pidgeotto was retreating after its attack. The problem arose with this Water Gun move. To attack Pidgeotto, which was agilely maneuvering in the air, Wartortle's Water Gun had to be launched in a parabolic trajectory. Unfortunately for Wartortle, it dodged the attack, but Misty, who was watching from the sidelines, was caught on the crossfire. Although the Water Gun's power had dissipated due to Misty's distance, getting soaked was inevitable. Seeing Misty covered in water, a hint of embarrassment crossed Gary's face. This isn't my fault, it's all Ash's fault. He and Ash had a long-standing feud, which had nothing to do with this complete stranger, Misty. Gary quickly shifted the blame after accidentally injuring Misty. It's okay, let's keep fighting. For the battle maniac Ash, this was no big deal. So what if he got soaked? But this was a completely different story in Mu Chen's eyes. Xiaoxia was his possession. Damn it, how dare they let my Xiaoxia be exposed? Because of the accidental Water Gun attack, Xiaoxia, who was already dressed rather lightly, was naturally exposed. Although Mu Chen couldn't see anything about her lower body because of her denim shorts, he could see 2 faint dark spots on her upper body after they were soaked. Clearly, Xiaoxia was already in her developmental stage. Although Mu Chen really wanted to rush into Xiaoxia's arms and feel it for himself, he knew that before that, as a man, he had to stand up for his woman. Pikachu, with a cry, Mu Chen rushed forward, ignoring Ash's surprised expression, and used electric shock on Pidgey. Useless piece of trash. If it weren't for you, would my girl have been exposed? Although Mu Chen also took this opportunity to discover Xiaoxia's secret of having developed, as a petty otaku, Mu Chen had absolutely no interest in sharing such things with others. Therefore, Mu Chen's choice was naturally to personally take action to avenge his woman and the advantage he had been given to someone else. Pikachu? What are you doing? The sudden appearance of Pikachu greatly exceeded Xiaozi's expectations. What's going on? Pidgeotto hadn't even lost yet. How did you just electrocute it? Chapter 29, Solving the Wartortle Problem. Ha ha ha. Ash, this is your starter Pokemon? You can't even control it? That's hilarious. Seeing Pikachu knock down Pidgeotto with an electric shock, Gary laughed gleefully. Pikachu, you show-off idiot. Keep laughing, I'll make you cry in a minute. Already furious, seeing Gary's arrogant attitude, Mu Chen quickened his pace. Pikachu, attack. Use electric shock. Although Pidgeotto was knocked down by Pikachu, Ash thought that as long as he could defeat Gary, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Of course, not everyone was as carefree as Ash. At this moment, Misty's eyes flashed brightly. She knew very well how lazy Pikachu was. Now, Pikachu was showing such anger, even knocking down its companion Pidgeotto who was blocking its way. All of this was because of her. As a girl, Misty was naturally very sensitive. She knew that all of this was because she had been unjustly attacked, which was why Pikachu was angry. This little guy was seeking revenge. A feeling of happiness washed over Xiaoxia. Although Pikachu was just a Pokemon, its actions were truly manly. Electric Mouse Pikachu? HMPH. Wartortle, don't be afraid of it, use Mud Soup. As expected of a third-generation rich kid, Xiaobay's Wartortle, which had only been born a short time, had already been given a luxurious TM. Although Mud Soup wasn't particularly powerful, it was a ground-type move, very effective against electric-type Pikachu. Moreover, the move's effect was to use the thrown mud to obstruct the opponent's vision, thus causing their attack to miss. With a cry, Wartortle launched a mud attack at the charging Pikachu. Pikachu, just kidding, I'm a veteran of countless battles, how could I be defeated by your stationary fighting style? After his Parker adventure at the Pewter City Gym, Mu Chen's combat awareness had greatly improved. At the very least, relying on his human intelligence, he had a significant advantage against Pokemon that only obeyed orders or acted purely on wild instincts. With a quick leap and the dash effect of quick attack, Mu Chen directly circled around to Wartortle's side, creating a blind spot. This was human intelligence. If it were Pokemon, the use of skills would naturally be primarily for attacking the opponent. However, Mu Chen didn't have that thought. Who said quick attack couldn't be used to travel and dodge attacks? Good opportunity. Pikachu, use Thunder? Ash wasn't really stupid. Seeing Pikachu dodge Wartortle's attack, he immediately shouted loudly towards the battlefield. Oh no. Wartortle, use U-turn. Ash's command not only reached Mu Chen's ears but also alerted his opponent, Gary. Although Gary was just a novice trainer on his first journey, his grandfather was Professor Oak. Having grown up surrounded by Pokemon, Shigeru was far more experienced in Pokemon battles than Ash. At least, he wouldn't stubbornly send his Pokemon to take the hits head-on. Pikachu, damn it. Hearing Ash's shout, Mu Chen, who was about to attack, couldn't help but curse. Idiot. Just stay in the back and let me carry you to victory, okay? Why do you keep yelling like that? Trying to assert your presence? Didn't you just alert your opponent? But. High-speed spin? HMPH. Too late. After complaining to Ash, Mu Chen didn't hesitate. Electric current crackled on his cheeks, and intense electric energy began to gather there. Although Mu Chen currently only knew the basic move, electric shock, through constant use, he had roughly mastered its usage. For example, using it without any charging would result in a very weak electric shock, barely enough to give Ash a quick, nasty stun. Of course, this kind of rapid electric shock also has an advantage: it can be used unexpectedly. At this moment, Mu Chen was using a charged electric shock. Although the release speed of this shock was relatively slower, its power was absolutely incomparable. Kami, just as Wartortle retracted its limbs into its shell, preparing to activate its spinning mode, Mu Chen's long-charged electric shock was unleashed. Zzzzz, a flash of electricity struck Wartortle's proud shell. Kami, even the hardest shell can only withstand physical attacks. Mu Chen's electric shock was a special attack. The shell offered no defense whatsoever. Upon entering its body, Wartortle immediately let out a mournful cry. Then, the spinning shell stopped moving. Thud! Wartortle landed heavily on all fours, falling heavily from mid-air to the ground. Wardard, seeing his Wartortle seeing stars and even smelling a meaty aroma emanating from it, Xiaomao was utterly shocked. What a joke. This is Pikachu? How could it be so powerful? Xiao Mao had already been in a state of shock when Pikachu used its high-speed movement to dodge Wartortle's mud attack. That's why he only thought to let Wartortle dodge after Ash's reminder. But what Xiao Mao didn't expect was that Pikachu would defeat his Wartortle with just one electric shock. Keep in mind, his Wartortle evolved from Squirtle, a Pokémon that had already evolved once. However, how could Xiao Mao know that, with the system's support, Mu Chen's stats had already surpassed those of a typical Pikachu? Although the difference wasn't huge, it was still a breakthrough. Ha ha ha. Xiao Mao, did you see that? My Pikachu is amazing, isn't it? Seeing Pikachu instantly defeat Wartortle, Ash was naturally overjoyed. This was a Pokémon that had crushed him in every aspect since childhood. Now, he could finally be the master. Pikachu, Mu Chen was also incredibly happy. Although the system hadn't intervened in this battle, he was determined to stand up for his girl. He made a mocking gesture of touching his nose, and sneered at the now quiet cheerleaders on the other side. HMPH. What future do those silly girls have following this show-off idiot? They'd be better off hanging out with me. Chapter 30 Venusaur, thank you. Pika Pika. At this moment, Mu Chen was happy. Xiaoxia, this little girl, was actually quite kind-hearted. After Mu Chen stood up for her, Xiaoxia was naturally overjoyed and picked him up, holding him tightly in her arms. Because of the water gun attack from the Squirtle earlier, Mu Chen already knew that this little girl wasn't completely without talent, so this time Mu Chen was very excited about Xiaoxia's embrace. Brother, I'm here of course. Mu Chen wasn't a fool. He couldn't treat Xiaoxia like he treated Hanako, blindly making a move. After all, this little girl was with him every day. As long as he didn't expose himself, Mu Chen would have plenty of opportunities to get close to her. If he made this little girl worry because of one impulsive act, it would truly be a loss. Therefore, at this moment, Mu Chen merely curled up slightly. Ouch Pikachu, don't move around, it tickles. Sure enough, with this action, Xiaoxia didn't suspect Mu Chen at all. After all, it was just a Pokémon, who would think it had such thoughts? Let alone Xiaoxia, a budding flower in that realm, even a mature woman like Hanako wouldn't have such ideas. And this was Mu Chen's biggest advantage as Pikachu. Although the system allowed Mu Chen to use Pokémon to satisfy certain needs, and although Mu Chen implicitly accepted it, he was still, after all, a human. Possessing a human soul and human thoughts? Mu Chen didn't know, nor was he interested in, how other Pokémon viewed human women. But he knew he himself was very fond of women. Especially in a world where beautiful women were everywhere. This was Mu Chen's paradise. Pikachu, however, even paradise wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Only half a day had passed since Ash defeated Gary, and on his way forward, Ash encountered a Pokémon that captivated him. Pikachu, charge. Defeat this little thing. I'm going to catch it. At that moment, a group of Bulbasaur migrating appeared before Ash. Ash was extremely interested in these starter Pokémon from the Kanto region. After all, these were the Kanto starter Pokémon, extremely rare and precious. To witness such a grand spectacle of dozens of Bulbasaur migrating together was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Seeing such a rare Pokémon, Ash certainly wouldn't let it slip by. However, Mu Chen was vehemently opposed to Ash's decision. Mu Chen had already made a firm decision not to let Ash catch Pokémon indiscriminately. He was going to build his own harem. He couldn't do anything about this Pidgeotto, and it was male, so Mu Chen was relatively at ease. But who knows what kind of random female Pokémon this guy might accidentally catch? Would his system give him a mission to re-enter the fray? Mu Chen wouldn't dare try something so terrifying. As for the ugly Failfish? No way, that can evolve. Failfish evolves into Melodic, which is absolutely gorgeous. Mu Chen could tolerate Melodic with his eyes closed, but the thought of Bulbasaur evolving into gigantic toad sent chills down his spine. This was just too much. Pikachu, Mu Chen firmly rejected Ash's command, already having a plan in mind. Ash, judging from Pikachu's appearance, it doesn't seem to want to participate in the battle. After Pikachu stood up for him this time, Misty's affection for it skyrocketed. If Pikachu weren't Ash's starter Pokémon, Misty would really want to ask for it. However, judging from Ash's stance, he was absolutely not going to give up on this extremely unfriendly Pikachu. Hey, Pikachu, go ahead, anyone will do, just help me defeat one. Pidgeotto was defeated by Pikachu's electric shock. Now that they were in the wild, Ash couldn't find anywhere to treat it. As for the remaining Clumsifin, even if Ash was stubborn, he knew that sending Clumsifin would be absolutely impossible to defeat any of the Bulbasaur's army. Therefore, this guy could only make a pleading face at the aloof Pikachu. Pickup, he shook his head firmly again in refusal. No. What a joke. There can't be a giant green toad in my harem. Absolutely not. For the sake of his future happiness, Mu Chen would absolutely not compromise this time. Boom. 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 Just as the conflicted Ash was about to take action himself, the earth suddenly shook. Oh my god. Ash, run. It's Venusaur. Attracted by the voice, Misty quickly looked up. What she saw shocked her. Behind the migrating Bulbasaur was a massive creature, almost the size of a father figure. Pikachu, damn it. Thank goodness I was smart enough. At that moment, Mu Chen felt a surge of relief. If he had gone up there, wouldn't that giant toad have crushed him into a pulp? Oh dear, what a pity. Unlike Misty and Pikachu's panic, the stubborn Ash was still filled with reluctance. This was a rare Kanto starter Pokémon, a Bulbasaur. Unfortunately, Misty had already run off with Pikachu, and Ash could only sigh and follow. After all, Misty was his companion, and Pikachu was his starter Pokémon. Even if Ash was heartless, he couldn't abandon them just because of a Bulbasaur he hadn't caught yet, could he? The Venusaur and its army of Bulbasaur, moving at a leisurely pace, completely ignored the two's escape. They were just two idiots. The two fleeing frantically were oblivious to what was happening behind them. Of course, one person did know. That person was, of course, Mu Chen. Nestled in Zylox's arms, Mu Chen could still see what was happening. Seeing that Venusaur was completely ignoring them, Mu Chen's tense mood immediately relaxed. Then, with his mind at ease, Mu Chen discovered a whole new world. Damn. With such vigorous activity, it seems like Zylox shouldn't feel my movements, right? A strong temptation washed over him, and Mu Chen could no longer restrain himself. Taking advantage of Zylox's running, Mu Chen, with lightning speed, launched a sneak attack on her with his short arms. Venusaur, thank you, this was the only thought in Mu Chen's mind at that moment. Chapter 31 has exposed it. Zylox, your stamina is terrible. We've only been running for a short while, how come you're already this tired? After a frantic run, Ash and Zylox finally managed to get away from the Bulbasaur swarm protected by their father. Once they were safe, Ash noticed that Zylox's face was flushed red all the way to her neck. To the naive Ash, this was simply exhaustion. But little did Ash know, Zylox was embarrassed. Earlier, while running, Zylox had felt that little, short hand that had been sneaking up on her. However, she hadn't thought much of it at the time. After all, with her running, Pikachu in her arms was constantly moving, and occasional mishaps were normal. Besides, Pikachu was just a Pokémon, and Zylox didn't believe it was intentional. But she never expected that as the run continued, and as time passed, that fluffy little hand became increasingly inappropriate. Although Zylox wasn't much older than Ash, she was, after all, a girl. Girls tend to mature earlier than boys when it comes to these things. Zylox was naturally terrified by the sudden attack. But then she remembered it was Pikachu, a Pokémon, and she felt relieved. It was an accident, definitely an accident. How could a Pokémon understand these things? Because she was in a hurry to escape, Zylox didn't pay attention to Pikachu's actions in her arms. And this only emboldened the little guy in her arms to take advantage of the situation. This time, Zylox truly felt it. This was definitely not an accident. That little Pikachu was getting more and more outrageous. This was unacceptable. Knowing that Pikachu was doing it intentionally, Zylox's pretty face instantly turned bright red. But unfortunately, because of her fear of the giant Venusaur, because Ash was running so fast, and fear of getting lost, Zylox could only pretend not to notice and chase after Ash all the way to this place. Finally, Ash stopped, and Zylox was relieved. Unexpectedly, just as Zylox caught her breath and Pikachu withdrew its little hand, Zylox asked her such an embarrassing question. I didn't rest well yesterday, so my stamina is a bit lacking. Zylox couldn't very well tell Zylox, your Pokémon knows too much and ambushed me while running, could it? Of course, while answering Zylox's question, which sounded both mocking and concerned, Zylox's hands weren't idle. At this moment, Mu Chen was experiencing both pain and pleasure. pain, because the shy Xiaoxia was mercilessly pinching and squeezing him. Mu Chen could feel his yellow skin almost being torn apart by Xiaoxia's rough handling. As for pleasure? Smelling his little hand, Mu Chen almost felt like he was in heaven. Although Mu Chen knew he had gone too far this time, even completely exposing his true self to Xiaoxia, how could he control himself in the face of such a huge temptation? What had started as a mere light touch? But as time went on, Mu Chen had no choice. Let's find a place to rest early, and continue our journey tomorrow. You got soaked earlier, don't get sick. Xiaozhi was very concerned about his companion, Xiaoxia. Seeing that she wasn't feeling well, Xiaozhi immediately abandoned the idea of traveling through the night. Girls, of course, aren't as strong as us boys. Okay, let's rest for a bit. By the way, Xiaozhi, Pikachu is yours. I'm a little tired. Hearing Xiaozhi's words, Xiaoxia felt like she'd been granted a reprieve. In her current state, she really wasn't suited to continue traveling. As for returning Pikachu to Xiaozhi, she'd already pinched and squeezed it, and her frustration had eased a little, but Xiaoxia didn't dare let Pikachu stay in her arms any longer. Who knew when this little guy would suddenly attack her again? If Xiaozhi saw that, she'd be utterly humiliated. Pika, oh no. This is bad. After finally escaping Xiaoxia's embrace, Mu Chen realized he'd really gone too far. Oh no, completely oh no, this little girl wouldn't hug him anymore. What to do? Having just tasted meat, Mu Chen genuinely didn't want to go back to that see but not get situation. But Alice, Xiaoxia was completely unmoved by his attempts to be cute this time. Helpless, Mu Chen could only droop his head and walk back to Xiaozhi's side, looking back every few steps. Ha, Pikachu, are you tired too? You can't even walk properly. Seeing Pikachu struggling to walk after breaking free from Xiaoxia's arms, the energetic Xiaozhi became even more arrogant. See? My stamina is even better than some Pokémon. With such a strong will and a robust physique, I will definitely become a Pokémon master. At this moment, the inexplicably confident Xiaozhi immersed himself in a magical realm, completely absorbed in it. Mu Chen didn't even bother to reply to Ash, that idiot. With a powerful leap, he jumped onto Ash's shoulder. After all, it was more comfortable than lying on the ground, wasn't it? Little did he know, Xiaoxia had witnessed his entire display. Seeing Pikachu's human-like behavior, Xiaoxia suddenly felt a pang of reluctance. Was I too much? It's so cute. And maybe everything before really was an accident. For a moment, Xiaoxia doubted her previous judgment. However, when she saw Pikachu, after landing on Ash's shoulder, pick up the little paw that had attacked her, and show a hint of reminiscence, she immediately abandoned her doubts. Damn it! That yellow mouse. It really did it on purpose. At this moment, through Mu Chen's unintentional display of genuine emotion, Xiaoxia was completely certain. This Pikachu was indeed. Although it felt unbelievable, it had happened to her, and Xiaoxia could only keep it to herself. That damn Pikachu, just you wait. Xiaoxia wasn't the type to be submissive. This Pikachu dared to take advantage of her. A mere pinch wouldn't be enough to satisfy her desire for revenge. Of course, Mu Chen was completely unaware of Xiaoxia's inner thoughts. At this moment, he was still completely absorbed in his previous amazing experience. This is my first intimate encounter. Chapter 32 Midnight. Pikachu, Mu Chen was a little confused. What the hell was going on? Who is messing with me at this hour? At midnight, Xiaozhi was already snoring loudly. Similarly, Mu Chen had long since fallen asleep, recalling everything that had happened during the day. But unexpectedly, just as he was dreaming about a crucial moment, he suddenly felt someone manipulating him. Feeling someone manipulating him, Mu Chen naturally woke up. However, he clearly hadn't figured out what was happening. Damn bastard, you're awake. Just as he was still confused, a woman's voice gently came to his ear. What's going on? Holy crap. Was this another dream? Did I switch channels? In Mu Chen's memory, he would never let anyone wake him up at midnight, especially not a young woman. Therefore, Mu Chen immediately thought he was trapped in another dream. But it was so strange. Why had he never experienced this kind of dream in real life? Could it be that I can now create such realistic dreams with my powerful willpower? Sleeping will be so much more comfortable from now on. Anyway, Zaya Aksha isn't paying attention to me anymore, looks like I'll have to sleep more during the day. At this moment, Mu Chen could still feel that he was being manipulated. However, as time passed, while Mu Chen was still immersed in his dream, he heard that female voice again. "Ah! You bastard! I knew it! I knew it, holy crap! It's not a dream?" Suddenly, a tearing pain came, and he heard an angry female voice in his ear. Mu Chen finally woke up. This is not a dream, it's Zaya Aksha. Pikachu, he had just woken up, and before Mu Chen could do anything, he was suddenly lifted into the air. What the hell? What's going on? Why is she causing trouble in the middle of the night instead of sleeping? Has this little girl Zaya Aksha gone crazy? Where is she taking me? Unfortunately, due to the language barrier, Mu Chen could only keep making Pika Pika sounds. Keep your voice down, or you'll wake Ash, and you'll be sorry. Knowing that the little guy could understand her, Zaya Aksha quickly warned him. It was late at night, otherwise Mu Chen would definitely have noticed. Zaya Aksha's pretty face was even redder than during the day, almost as if it were bleeding. It turned out that after eating some simple travel snacks, Ash and Pikachu had fallen asleep. But Zaya Aksha couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Recalling the scene from the daytime, Zaya Aksha's pretty face hadn't returned to normal. Finally, after much hesitation, Zaya Aksha decided to confirm her judgment from the daytime one last time. Of course, the most basic judgment was to know whether this little rascal Pikachu was male or female. If it was female, then everything was fine, it was all a misunderstanding. But if it was male, HMPH, then it was very obvious. As for why Zaya Aksha didn't know Pikachu's gender before? Just kidding, not even Zaya Aksha, let alone Zaya Ozzy, would know. After all, it's a Pokémon, who would be interested in figuring out its gender? Especially a small Pikachu, you can't exactly turn it upside down to check, can you? But since Mu Chen was already fast asleep, Zaya Aksha actually did turn it over to examine it closely. By the moonlight, Zaya Aksha quickly found her target. When she discovered that Pikachu was male, she was even more certain of her judgment during the day. However, out of curiosity, Zaya Aksha didn't just turn around and leave. Instead, she started studying the little creature. Little did she expect that this study would accidentally wake up the person involved. At this moment, Zaya Aksha was truly ashamed to the point of wanting to disappear. Oh my god! What have I done? Just then, Mu Chen, the person involved in the incident, woke up. Seeing that Pikachu was awake, and fearing that it would wake Zaya Aksha naturally had no choice but to pick it up and quickly flee the scene. Pikachu? Pikachu, after being carried and run for a while by Zaya Aksha, and having already gotten far away from the area where Zaya was fast asleep, Mu Chen let out another questioning cry. What the hell does this mean? Can't you just give me a straight answer? Pikachu, I know you can understand what I'm saying. I also know you did it on purpose during the day. You're such a little rascal. After saying this with a slightly shy tone, Zaya Aksha saw Pikachu's bewildered expression in the moonlight. At this moment, she really didn't know what to do. Although she was the victim during the day, what about at night? She had actually attacked Pikachu in the night. Pikachu, holy crap. I'm not going to die. Hearing Zaya Aksha's slightly shy complaint, Mu Chen suddenly realized that this little girl didn't seem to blame him much. You see, although Mu Chen was a homebody in his previous life, even if he hadn't eaten pork, he'd still seen pigs run. He'd watched far too many movies, TV series, and even read countless novels. Zaya Aksha's current state clearly indicated she wasn't turning against him. Mu Chen was certain that it was only because he was currently a Pokémon. If he were a handsome young man, he could probably easily win Zaya Aksha over. Unfortunately, his identity was something Mu Chen couldn't change. Pikachu, I can pretend what happened during the day never happened. But you must also pretend what happened tonight never happened. Understand? If you understand, nod. The Pika Pika calls were cute, but Zaya Aksha absolutely couldn't understand them. After some thought, Zaya Aksha finally made her decision. Regardless, her actions tonight were a form of revenge, a way of evening things out. After all, this kind of thing was very embarrassing to be seen in public, and Zaya Aksha couldn't possibly tell anyone. Even if she did, probably no one would believe her. Besides, it was just a Pokémon. Zaya Aksha wouldn't cry and scream just because it hit her a couple of times. Anyway, let's just keep this as a little secret. That was Xiaoxia's only thought at the moment. Pikachu, hearing Xiaoxia's words, Mu Chen naturally nodded repeatedly. Just kidding, Mu Chen was naturally very happy to solve it this way. However, if it was only that, Mu Chen was not satisfied. What I want is to be back in your arms. Therefore, while nodding, Mu Chen made a forward lunge motion. If nothing else works, getting another hug is no problem, right? Chapter 33 The Agreement. I slept so well. Spending the night in the wild is quite an experience. Hey? Misty, didn't you sleep well? Why are your eyes so red? Or are you feeling unwell? Ash woke up feeling refreshed. However, when he looked at Misty beside him, he noticed her eyes were bloodshot. What's going on? Is Misty really sick? That was Ash's only thought at that moment. No, I'm fine. I'm just not used to sleeping in the wild. Hearing Ash's concerned question, Misty quickly made up an excuse. She couldn't very well tell this guy what happened last night, could she? Earlier, after Misty made a promise with Pikachu, seeing it nod made her feel relieved. But unexpectedly, the little guy tried to jump into her arms. This really startled Misty. Good heavens! Has this little guy gone crazy? Hasn't it taken advantage enough during the day? What else does it want to do? Instinctively, Xiaoxia wanted to defend herself and stop Pikachu's pounce. However, while Xiaoxia's mind reacted to Pikachu's movements, her body couldn't keep up. Caught off guard, Xiaoxia didn't have time to react before Pikachu darted into her arms. Just as Xiaoxia was at a loss, unsure what to do, she noticed that Pikachu, now in her arms, remained motionless, simply lying quietly as always. Looking at the adorable little creature, Xiaoxia instantly understood its meaning. Clearly, Pikachu had completely accepted her conditions. But, in addition to accepting, the little guy also made its own condition, to restore their previous relationship and to be held by her every day. While holding Pikachu wasn't a problem, and Xiaoxia even enjoyed holding this adorable little guy, the problem was, its mind wasn't as naive as it appeared. This little guy was a hungry wolf. Having experienced Pikachu's sneak attack once, Xiaoxia fully understood its nature. Even the time Pikachu massaged her legs, Xiaoxia finally understood. It was all intentional. Originally, Xiaoxia wanted to simply shake Pikachu off. After all, holding this bomb, a dangerous creature, who knew when the little thing would attack her again? However, when Xiaoxia looked down, she saw the pleading and longing in Pikachu's eyes. At that moment, Xiaoxia's heart softened. After all, it was such an adorable Pokémon, and it had even stood up for her because she had been bullied. Xiaoxia had never experienced anything like this before. Girls naturally feel a strong attraction to a member of the opposite sex who would stand up for them. Driven by this attraction and her love for Pikachu, Xiaoxia finally agreed to Pikachu's request for a hug. Of course, she also took precautions. Pikachu, I can hug you, but you have to promise me you'll never do that to me again. I'm human. You're a Pokémon, it's wrong of you to act like that. If you really want one, I'll help you find a female Pikachu. Holy crap. Mu Chen was stunned. Looking at Xiaoxia's lecturing face, Mu Chen never expected it to end like this. What else was there to say? Being able to return to Xiaoxia's embrace was the most important thing for Mu Chen right now. A series of Pika-yes and nods, Mu Chen agreed to Xiaoxia's request, completely putting the little girl's worries at ease. Just a snort. Naive little girl. This time I acted impulsively. But, in the future. After confirming Xiaoxia's reaction this time, Mu Chen's courage grew even stronger. This little girl isn't that hard to win over. Of course, at this moment, Mu Chen was just taking advantage of Xiaoxia. After all, he was now a Pokémon, and Xiaoxia was human, he couldn't do anything else. However, being able to gain a little advantage was enough for Mu Chen. This was a treatment he, as a former hardcore otaku, wouldn't have dared to even dream of. As for the female Pikachu Xiaoxia mentioned, Mu Chen completely scoffed at that. What a joke. Pikachu? Besides being a little cute, what's so appealing about this yellow-skinned mouse? My aesthetic sense is perfectly healthy and normal. I can grit my teeth and tolerate a melodic with a slender waist. A yellow-skinned mouse? You might as well just kill me. As for the fact that melodic, the evolved form of Failfish, is also too different in size from him? Mu Chen hadn't even thought of that at the moment. Anyway, I'm not worried. Since the system dared to assign this task, it must have a way to make me complete it. Otherwise, then the system is just making a blunder. After reconciling with Xiaoxia, Mu Chen returned to his previous sleeping spot and naturally drifted off to sleep. However, Xiaoxia, one of the parties involved, simply couldn't fall asleep. After all, she was just a teenage girl, just beginning to experience romantic feelings and developing curiosity about the opposite sex. Having suddenly encountered so much, if Xiaoxia could sleep, she'd be a second Ash, with a heart bigger than the sky. If there's nothing else, let's continue on our way. If we can't reach Brightwood's lighthouse today, we'll probably have to sleep in the wilderness again. Ash, of course, knew nothing about what had happened between Xiaoxia and Pikachu. At this moment, all he could think about was reaching Brightwood's lighthouse as quickly as possible. The enormous ancient dragonite held an extraordinary allure for Ash. Although catching it was unlikely, witnessing it firsthand would still broaden his horizons, wouldn't it? Yeah, let's go. I also want a comfortable place to rest. Xiaoxia naturally had no objection to Ash's request to continue. You see, at this moment, she really wanted to lie on a soft bed and have a good sleep. Pikachu, hearing the command to set off, Mu Chen didn't hesitate, leaping into Xiaoxia's arms. He was determined to secure this spot no matter what. Although he'd made a promise with Xiaoxia the night before, Mu Chen was genuinely worried she might change her mind. Fortunately, Xiaoxia only paused slightly at the Pikachu that jumped into her arms before quickly returning to normal. Seeing this, Mu Chen's anxiety finally subsided. Chapter 34 Torrential Rain. Click. Looking at the pitiful little creature in front of him, Mu Chen almost couldn't resist the urge to electrocute it. Damn it. It's like the worst thing ever happens. He'd just escaped Bulbasaur's temptation of that idiot Ash, and now he'd encountered another starter Pokémon so soon? Aren't starter Pokémon supposed to be extremely rare? How come they're so common? At this moment, a torrential downpour was falling. Ash and Misty had planned to run quickly to a training station marked on the map to rest and escape the rain. But unexpectedly, Ash, that sharp-eyed idiot, spotted an abandoned Charmander. Seeing a starter Pokémon, and such a pitiful one at that, Ash naturally felt a surge of compassion and insisted on carrying this annoying toy to the station to escape the rain. This completely ruined Mu Chen's situation. Although Misty was once again soaked to the bone, even revealing her underwear. Although the rain and his rapid running allowed him to successfully reach base again without Xiaoxia noticing, this still couldn't stop Mu Chen's frustration. Damn it. Ash was clearly trying to capture this Charmander. How could this be allowed? How could his harem contain such a toy? Although Charmander's current appearance was rather cute, what about its evolved form? Just thinking about Charmander's terrifying appearance after evolution made Mu Chen realize he absolutely couldn't accept it. Damn it, even if my tastes are heavy, I wouldn't be interested in a Western dragon, would I? The thought of having such a toy mixed in with his harem while he was fighting on the front lines filled Mu Chen with sorrow. No way. Absolutely not. I must hold my ground. I absolutely cannot let that idiot Ash ruin my plans. Hey. You bastard, you bastard. Didn't we agree yesterday? Because of his excitement, Mu Chen's shorthand accidentally used a little too much force. But precisely because of that slight weight gain, Xiaoxia, who was running, immediately sensed that this guy was up to his old tricks again. What's wrong? Xiaoxia? What happened? Hearing Xiaoxia's exclamation, Xiaoxia, who was running ahead carrying Charmander, quickly stopped and asked. Nothing, I just tripped. You should hurry up and keep going, protecting Charmander is the priority. Hearing Xiaoxia's question, Xiaoxia, blushing, quickly made an excuse to send him away. Just kidding, I can't tell you that your Pikachu is taking advantage of me, can I? Okay. Then be careful. Hearing Xiaoxia's answer, Xiaoxia didn't think much of it and continued running. You see, for a Pokemon like Charmander, if the flame on its tail goes out, it means its life has come to an end. And the Charmander in Xiaoxia's arms had already exhausted a lot of energy, its physical condition was extremely poor, and even the flame on its tail seemed like it might go out at any moment. Therefore, Ash was very concerned about the safety of this little Charmander. After all, Ash was just a child full of love for Pokemon. You little rascal. Didn't we just agree on this yesterday? Why are you messing around again? Seeing Ash turn to leave, Misty questioned the mischievous Pikachu in her arms with a shy expression. Pika, damn it, I didn't want to either. But who told you to get soaked? Now that you're wet, I've seen everything I should and shouldn't have seen. You think you can play this game? I'm young and full of vigor, how could I possibly resist? Of course. Mu Chen wouldn't tell Misty this, nor could he. You little rascal. Don't act like you're the one who's wronged. Hey. Your hand. Why aren't you taking your hand out of your hands? Seeing the aggrieved expression on Pikachu's face, Misty was furious. This little rascal, taking advantage of me, and you still think you're right? Although Xiaoxia couldn't understand Pikachu's words, its aggrieved expression was obvious to anyone with a brain. Of course, that wasn't the main issue. What Xiaoxia found most intolerable was that this little rascal's hand, it hadn't been removed. Feeling that furry little hand still causing trouble at this moment, Xiaoxia almost fainted from anger. Pika Pika, holy crap. This was a bit awkward. Reminded by Xiaoxia, Mu Chen finally realized that he had forgotten to pull his little hand away. This was an accident, purely accidental. With an embarrassed smile, Mu Chen awkwardly pulled his mischievous little hand back. Of course, the process wasn't quick. After all, in this stormy weather, who wouldn't want to easily part with such a warm haven? You little rascal, I'm warning you, if this happens again, I really won't forgive you. With a warm little hand suddenly gone, Xiaoxia felt a huge sense of loss wash over her. This really startled her. Could it be that I enjoy being mistreated by this little rascal? Shaking her head, she quickly banished this terrible thought from her mind and issued a final ultimatum to Pikachu with a serious expression. Absolutely. Absolutely forbid this despicable little rascal. If it pushes its luck any further. Suddenly, Xiaoxia's pretty face flushed red again. After all, Xiaoxia was just a girl experiencing her first stirrings of love, at an age where she was curious about everything. Otherwise, she would never have done something so shameful as to investigate this little rascal in the middle of the night out of curiosity. Pika Pika, what else was there to say? He had to agree. Nodding earnestly, Mu Chen managed to get away with it again. However, Mu Chen's heart was definitely not as calm as it appeared. Ha ha ha. Hooray. If winning over Xiaoxia were scored out of 100, Mu Chen had already reached at least 60 points. Judging from the little girl's attitude and reaction, Mu Chen was absolutely certain that the reason she was acting this way was simply because of shyness. As long as he gradually reduced her shyness and made her accept this kind of thing as a habit, then Mu Chen could expect a bright future. You little rascal, remember what you promised me. If there's a next time, I will never forgive you. The shy Xiao gave another warning, feigning toughness, before chasing after Xiao Zhi, who was almost out of sight. That idiot. Didn't he even wait for me? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Little Fire Dragon? Goodbye. This is your Pokémon. How could you treat it like this? After a frantic run, Ash finally arrived at the rest stop carrying Charmander. But as soon as he sat down, he overheard a group of people discussing something. One of them was talking about the Charmander he had abandoned. Huh? Why did you bring it back? What's the point of keeping such a useless thing? Wouldn't it be better to let it fend for itself? Seeing Ash's angry face, the boy who had abandoned Charmander looked displeased. Why are there always busybodies everywhere? Pikachu, holy crap. A kindred spirit. Hearing the boy's retort to Ash, Mu Chen became excited. He was absolutely right. This thing, which looks hideous after evolving, should just be left to fend for itself. With Misty already dealt with, Mu Chen's attention naturally returned to Charmander. No matter what, for the sake of a happy future, I absolutely cannot let that idiot Ash catch this Charmander. What? Pikachu, you're unhappy with his behavior too, right? Hearing Pikachu's cry, Ash naturally assumed it was responding to him. Pika, what the hell? What's your IQ? When did I ever complain? Hearing Ash's self-righteous judgment, Mu Chen almost fainted from anger. What, Pikachu, don't you want Ash to catch Charizard? Ash didn't notice, but the observant Misty noticed a clue. Pikachu's expression clearly showed that it didn't want Ash to catch the little Charizard in the end. Although currently, the little Charizard still belonged to the boy who abandoned it, Ash could easily catch it if the boy relinquished ownership. But judging from the current situation, Pikachu was extremely opposed to it. Misty naturally knew that this creature, so different from other Pokémon, possessed extremely high intelligence. Therefore, Misty secretly asked the Pikachu in her arms, "Pika, you understand me best." At this moment, a tear welled up in Mu Chen's eye. Finding a kindred spirit who understands you in this world is not easy. Why? Don't you want to help Ash become stronger? Aksha was stunned by Pikachu's clear answer. Why? Did Pikachu not want Ash to become stronger? Or did it want to possess Ash for itself? That seemed unlikely. Aksha was more inclined to believe that Pikachu wanted to possess her. Through their interactions over this period, Aksha had discovered that Pikachu genuinely ignored Ash, completely disregarding him as its master. And Ash, that oblivious creature, was completely oblivious. Aksha was speechless at their relationship. Pika, hearing Aksha's misunderstanding, Mu Chen hurriedly explained to her. "Just kidding, I'm not a petty person. It's just that I can't handle Charmander's evolved form." Of course, Mu Chen knew Aksha wouldn't understand him, so he pointed to the Pokeball with the silencer on Ash's waist and nodded. Then, Mu Chen pointed to Charmander and shook his head. Clearly, anyone who wasn't completely clueless could understand Mu Chen's meaning. "You really are. Alright, then I'll help you." Seeing Pikachu's remarkable intelligence, Aksha's eyes lit up. She knew it was smart, but to communicate with her in such a way was beyond mere intelligence. If she hadn't already known it was a Pikachu, she would have suspected it was a human in disguise. However, it was precisely because Pikachu's intelligence impressed Aksha that she inexplicably decided to help it. After all, not everyone is as observant as Ash, whose mind is as vast as the sky. Even if Pikachu was incredibly smart, it probably couldn't communicate with him normally. This, perhaps, is why Pikachu doesn't like him? Of course, Aksha didn't know that all of this was just her imagination. The truth? It's actually very simple. There's only one reason: Mu Chen is a real man. Ash, the rain has stopped, let's go. Charmander is someone else's Pokemon after all, let him handle it himself. Aksha interrupted Ash, who was still arguing with Charmander's owner, with a helpless expression. Although Aksha felt bad saying these words. After all, Charmander was such a cute little guy. But after all, her bond with Pikachu was much stronger, wasn't it? At this moment, Aksha no longer regarded Pikachu as an ordinary Pokemon. Such abandonment of one's own Pokemon is far too common in this world. To manage? It's simply impossible to manage. Anyway, Charmander is a cherished Pokemon. If this kid doesn't want it, plenty of others will. Aksha wasn't afraid that it wouldn't find a suitable owner. Moreover, the torrential rain outside had stopped, which was why Aksha could say these words. Huh? They're leaving already? At this moment, Ash wasn't determined to capture the Charmander. After all, it was still someone else's Pokemon. Ash was only arguing with a boy because of his sense of justice and his love for Pokemon. Did you hear that? This beautiful lady already said it. What are you babbling about? Give me back my Charmander, it's mine. The boy snatched the Charmander from Ash's arms, his face arrogant. Huh? Fine then. Remember, you must treat your Pokemon well, don't abandon it again. In this situation, Ash naturally couldn't say anything more. Urged on by Misty, Ash left the station in a disheveled state. Pika, Misty's support naturally delighted Mu Chen. No need to say anything more, even though you're still a little girl, for your understanding nature, I'm ready. At this moment, Mu Chen had made his decision. This little girl, Misty, I'm going to take her. Of course, before taking advantage, it's always good to get something for nothing. For example, to express his joy, Mu Chen kept nuzzling Xiaoxia's neck with his head in a show of intimacy. Pikachu, stop it, it tickles. He changed his approach to taking advantage, and Xiaoxia, this naive girl, was completely oblivious. At that moment, Mu Chen mentally made a victory sign. Chapter 36 Zheng Wei's Lighthouse. Ah! Is this Bill's lighthouse? It's so magnificent. Finally, this time there were no more unexpected incidents, and Ash and Misty safely arrived at their destination. Looking at the majestic lighthouse standing by the sea, Mu Chen was filled with excitement. No matter what storms, what giant dragonite, bring it all. Along the way, Mu Chen and Misty's relationship had undergone a significant change. Misty had learned about this Pokemon's intelligence, which far surpassed that of other Pokemon, and also its true nature. However, Misty's reaction to this clever and adorable Pokémon was not one of anger or embarrassment, but rather a shy yet expectant one. This was Mu Chen's greatest gain from this trip. Relying on Pikachu's cute appearance, Mu Chen was now making rapid progress on the path to winning over Misty. It was precisely for this reason that Mu Chen's desire to complete the system mission was so strong. After all, this world was not as safe as it seemed on the surface. Every year, countless trainers tragically died in accidents while traveling. Moreover, there's the existence of an evil organization like Team Rocket. Team Rocket Trio are just a minority. Most Team Rocket members are truly ruthless killers. That's why Mu Chen so strongly desires to increase his strength. Only by becoming stronger can he better protect himself, protect Ash, his idiotic mission target, and protect Misty, whom he wants to protect. Traveling young people, are you here to visit the lighthouse? Just as Ash and his friends were standing outside the lighthouse, a researcher in a white lab coat appeared before them. That's right. We're here to visit the lighthouse and pay our respects to Professor Bright. As a new trainer full of love for the world and possessing impeccable character, Ash naturally answered the question very politely. What, Professor? I'm Bright. Come in, I'll show you around. This person was none other than the owner of the lighthouse, Bright. Of course, as an official researcher of the League, Bright wasn't so enthusiastic towards everyone. As for why he was so enthusiastic towards Ash? Seeing the trainer navigator that Professor Oak had personally created, Zheng Wei surely understood the kid's identity. Clearly, this kid was also a legitimate League trainer. You see, in this world, trainers are divided into many tiers. For example, someone like Ash, who gets a starter Pokémon and a trainer navigator right after embarking on his journey, is quite rare in the League. Most are just bug-catching kids relying on their own efforts. Many, driven by poverty, even join various dark organizations, such as the largest, Team Rocket. Oh? You mean you heard there were traces of a giant ancient Pokémon here, so you came specifically? After showing Ash and Misty a brief tour of the lighthouse, Zheng Wei learned their true purpose. He wasn't surprised by their motive. After all, this rumor had been circulating for a long time. He himself had come here to build the lighthouse because of this rumor, hoping to see that mysterious giant ancient Pokémon. That's right. Professor Zheng Wei. This rumor must be true, right? The Pokémon will definitely appear, right? Ash's most admirable trait is his inexplicable confidence. He's always full of confidence, no matter what. Pikachu. Before Professor Zheng Wei could reply, Mu Chen impatiently called out. What the hell is this dawdling about? The system has already pointed out the mission objective to me, how could it not appear? At this moment, Mu Chen was still very conflicted. Although he wanted to complete the mission, Mu Chen knew that the risk factor for this mission was extremely high. A giant Dragonite, that's a pseudo-legendary Pokémon. The system was making him provoke it, essentially putting his life on a tightrope. One wrong step, and he would fall into an abyss. But unfortunately, if he didn't do this mission, the punishment would be even more unacceptable to Mu Chen. Therefore, Mu Chen's mind was now filled with how to perfectly complete this deadly mission. According to my calculations, if that Pokémon really exists, it will probably appear near the lighthouse within the next few days. If you have time, you can stay inside the lighthouse to rest for now. Wait? Why is it foggy? Just as Zheng Wei and Xiao Zhi were talking, a thick fog suddenly rose outside the lighthouse. Looking at the sudden fog, Zheng Wei had a vague premonition. Could it be? A giant Dragonite is really about to appear? At this moment, Zheng Wei, excited, didn't bother with Xiao Zhi and the other, and turned around and ran wildly out of the lighthouse. Professor, seeing Zheng Wei leave so quickly, Xiao Zhi was dumbfounded. What's going on? Why did he leave halfway through his sentence? What's wrong with fog? Isn't fog normal at the beach? Hey! Xiao Zhi, hurry up and chase after him. The professor is in such a hurry, he must have made some discovery. Seeing Xiao Zhi so dense, Xiao Misty was so angry that she almost kicked him. No wonder Pikachu doesn't like him, compared to him, even I don't like him. At this moment, Xiaoxia was unaware that the slight affection she initially felt for Ash had gradually shifted to Pikachu. Pikachu, holy crap. It's here? So fast? Damn it. Give me some time to prepare. I haven't even thought of a strategy yet. Mu Chen naturally understood that this was the prelude to the appearance of a giant Dragonite. The problem was, This guy hadn't yet come up with any safe provocation tactics. While everyone was rushing towards the outside of the lighthouse, on the cliffs by the sea below, Musashi and Kojiro were also looking bewildered at the suddenly rising thick fog. Musashi, what's going on? They had come all this way to capture Zyuox's army, which Musashi couldn't forget. They had just set up their cannons, preparing to bombard the lighthouse a few times at night and then steal Zyuox's Pokeball in the chaos. And now, before it was even completely dark, the fog had risen. Looking at the faint light on the lighthouse that appeared and disappeared intermittently, Musashi and the others exchanged bewildered glances. With visibility this low, how could they possibly bomb it? Were they just supposed to leave it to fate? Meow. Musashi, Kojiro, look. Thick fog. Something seems to be coming out of the fog. Meow. Just then, Meow made a new discovery. Chapter 37 Charge, Pikachu. Look. Look. After a frantic run, they finally arrived outside the lighthouse, and Ash and his friends were stunned. In the thick fog, a gigantic figure was vaguely emerging, gradually becoming clearer. Judging from its outline, they recognized it. This was the legendary giant Dragonite they had been waiting for. My god. I can't believe a giant Dragonite actually exists. It's huge. Looking at the massive figure, over 10 meters tall, getting closer and closer in the fog, Ash was filled with awe. Yes, it's huge. Misty was also stunned. Who would have thought a legend was true? Of course, unlike Ash and his friends' shock, Mu Chen was utterly horrified. Damn it. System, if you want to mess with me, just say so. This thing, you want me to provoke it? Just look at the size difference, it could blow me dozens of meters away with a single breath. If only we could catch this guy. Just as everyone was excitedly exclaiming, Ash suddenly blurted out his thoughts. Hearing Ash's words, Zheng Wei and Zyuox were nearly scared so much they fell off the cliff into the sea. Are you crazy? What kind of thought process is that? You think you can catch such a terrifying creature? Even Lance, the Elite Four member, wouldn't dare say he could catch such a legendary being. Putting everything else aside, just looking at its size, everyone could tell. This guy far surpassed the concept of an ordinary Pokémon. Even those legendary Pokémon were probably no match for it. Damn it. I'll risk it all. Seeing such a terrifying being, Mu Chen would be lying if he said he wasn't afraid. But there was no other way, his life was in the system's hands. If this mission failed, what awaited him was only a slow death. Rather than such a cowardly slow death, Mu Chen would rather fight like a man. Anyway, the system's only concern was provocation, not actually forcing him to fight this terrifying being. There was still a chance. For his own life, for his yet-to-be-built harem, for the Musashi panties he hadn't yet seen, and for Zyuox's conquest plan to continue, Mu Chen abandoned all his cowardice and timidity. Pikachu, just when Zheng Wei and Zyuox thought Zyuoxi was delusional, Pikachu and Zyuox's arms suddenly moved. It let out a cry, then quickly broke free from Zyuox's embrace and rushed towards the beach below the cliff. Hey! Pikachu? What are you doing? Seeing Pikachu break free at this moment and rush towards the approaching terrifying being, Zyuox was immediately terrified. Good heavens! What's wrong with Pikachu? Did it always hate Zyuoxi? Did it never listen to Zyuoxi's commands? Well done. Pikachu, attack. Let that big guy see our courage. Unlike Zyuox's shock, Zyuoxi was beaming with joy. As expected of my starter Pokemon. Pikachu, hearing Zyuoxi's idiotic words, Mu Chen, who was charging forward, almost fell to the ground. Attack? Let him see courage? Go to hell. Why don't you charge over and show off your courage yourself? Roar. Just then, a deafening roar came from the thick fog. This was the roar from the huge figure. Pikachu, damn it. Trying to outshout me? I'm not afraid of you. Although Mu Chen's roar seemed insignificant compared to the giant Dragonite, the figure charging at it appeared incredibly imposing. At least, that's how Zyuox saw it. At this moment, Zyuox's eyes were filled with tears, and she had already taken out her Pokeball, ready to rescue Pikachu at any moment. Today, Pikachu once again completely redefined Zyuox's perception of it. This little guy, lazy? Lustful? Cute? Mischievous? All of that is an illusion. This is the real Pikachu. At this moment, Zyuox's heart is completely captivated. If Pikachu weren't a Pokemon, if Pikachu were a human, Xiaoxia guarantees she would immediately throw herself into its arms and never let go. Ha ha ha. Pikachu, that's it. Don't be afraid of it. Defeat it. Then we'll catch it, as the saying goes, different strokes for different folks. Although Xiaoxia eats exactly the same food as Xiaoxia, their personalities. At this moment, Xiaoxia's scalp was practically about to explode with excitement. Pikachu is just too awesome. Pika Pika, of course. Mu Chen, who had already rushed down the cliff, couldn't hear Xiaoxia's idiotic commands, otherwise he would definitely turn around and give Xiaoxia a deeply affectionate electric shock. Seriously, is he even speaking human language? Are you brainless? Why do you want to challenge everything? Is this even on the same level? Roar, a huge roar came again. Obviously, the giant Dragonite, which had reached the beach and revealed its full size, had also noticed the little guy charging at it. Seeing that this little guy dared to charge at it, the giant Dragonite was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? I've lived for countless years, and this is the first time I've seen someone so stubborn. What does this little thing want to do? Soon, the giant Dragonite's doubts were answered. Pikachu, charging to the edge of the beach, Mu Chen had no choice but to unleash an electric shock. Of course, this electric shock was the weakest instantaneous electric shock. It would be a lie to say he wasn't afraid. What Mu Chen was thinking at this moment was to release a weak electric shock, to complete the system task without angering this terrifying guy. Otherwise, I'd be doomed. Musashi, look, isn't that Pikachu that brat? What's it doing? Mu Chen didn't realize that Team Rocket was actually right behind him, below the cliff. Seeing Pikachu actively using an electric shock on the giant Dragonite, as if challenging it to a battle, Kajiro almost thought he was hallucinating. Huh? What? Oh no. This is bad. Musashi was also stunned by the situation. Hearing Kajiro's question, Musashi instinctively turned around. But because of this turn, she inadvertently bumped into the switch of the cannon they had prepared. Due to the sudden thick fog, they hadn't adjusted the cannon's direction. Therefore, the cannon was now firing directly at the giant Dragonite. Boom! A deafening roar erupted as the cannon roared and fired the shells that Musashi and the others had already loaded. Chapter 38. Finally, he learned a powerful move. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! You can't be so impulsive next time. If you do this again, I'll never hug you again. Looking at Xiaoxia with tears streaming down her face, Xiaoxia was completely bewildered. What was going on? Pikachu is my Pokémon, right? Why was Xiaoxia so agitated? At this moment, the giant Dragonite had disappeared from the lighthouse. Earlier, when Mu Chen unleashed that electric shock, Jessie and the others' cannons roared angrily. As a result, Mu Chen's mission was perfectly completed. The difficult task of attracting the giant Dragonite's wrath was bravely taken on by the Team Rocket trio. Of course, although the giant Dragonite was incredibly strong, it was still a peace-loving Dragonite. To this harmless cannonball, the giant Dragonite's response was merely a casual hyper beam. The Team Rocket trio truly lived up to their reputation as unkillable cockroaches. Although the giant Dragonite's hyper beam was used very casually, it was still not something an ordinary person could withstand. However, the Team Rocket trio still managed to withstand it. Of course, there was a price to pay, though it was just being blasted into the sky by hyper beam. Ash completely ignored Team Rocket's sudden appearance and then mysterious disappearance. No longer paying attention to Misty, Ash looked helplessly at the departing figure that had already turned away. What a pity. I never imagined that this giant ancient Pokémon would be a Dragonite. If only I could catch it. Professor Bill, who was taking notes, nearly fell off the cliff upon hearing the boy's words. Was this kid even intelligent? Pikachu, with a cute cry, Mu Chen stretched out his little hand. Of course, this time, Mu Chen didn't do anything inappropriate. He was simply using his little hand to wipe away the still dry tears on the face of the girl who was holding him tightly. This was the first girl to cry for him. At this moment, Mu Chen's heart was touched. Misty. No matter where you are, I will always protect you. This was the vow Mu Chen made to himself. This girl had given him so many firsts. Mu Chen knew that when Xiaoxia shed tears for him, the bond between him and Xiaoxia could never be erased. As for his trainer, Xiaoxia, Mu Chen selectively ignored this idiot. Anyway, Xiaoxia was always with Xiaoxia. Alright, the fog has lifted, let's go back. After waiting for many years at the lighthouse, Professor Zheng Wei finally saw the legendary giant Dragonite. Satisfied, Professor Zheng Wei naturally had no intention of continuing to stand in the wind in the middle of the night. These two kids are really lucky. They just arrived here and saw the giant Pokémon that I have been waiting for many years. Professor Zheng Wei was naturally extremely envious of Xiaozi and Xiaoxi's luck. Let's go. I'm exhausted. I'm going to have a big meal and then get a good night's sleep. The giant Dragonite had disappeared, and Xiaozi had no other thoughts. After traveling all day, he was now completely relaxed, and fatigue naturally overwhelmed him. Pikachu, similarly, Mu Chen was also very tired. Although he had been hitching rides the whole way, the moment he faced the giant Dragonite, he'd felt immense pressure. Now, the pressure had dissipated, but exhaustion was washing over him. However, Mu Chen couldn't rest yet. After successfully provoking the giant Dragonite, the system's rewards had been distributed. Accepting the rewards and looking at the fourth skill on his skill panel, Mu Chen's fatigue vanished instantly. Thunderbolt. This was Thunderbolt. Why was Pikachu so powerful? Because it had learned Thunderbolt in its infancy. Of course, Pikachu's stats weren't just Mu Chen's pitiful 320. Mu Chen knew this. However, Mu Chen wasn't worried at all. With the system's help, he'd successfully learned Thunderbolt, making him quite formidable at this stage, right? As for stats, he wasn't worried at all. With a system so generous, constantly distributing random tasks, how could he possibly be afraid of not improving his stats? It was precisely because he had absolute confidence in the system that Mu Chen remained calm. Pikachu? I'll not only reach your level, I'll surpass you sooner or later. Meanwhile, as Ash and his friends returned to Bill's lighthouse to rest, nearly a kilometer away in a field, the Team Rocket trio were blaming each other. Jesse. It's all your fault. If you hadn't carelessly fired the cannon, we wouldn't have been sent flying so far. Luckily, the vegetation here is lush enough, otherwise, even if we hadn't been killed by that hyper beam, we would have been killed by the fall. After enjoying a thrilling high-speed flight, James finally mustered the courage to voice his dissatisfaction to Jesse. That's right, meow. Jesse, if it weren't for you, we definitely would have had a chance to ambush those two brats in the middle of the night. Meow. After running for days, even using the funds given by their leader to buy a cannon, this was the final result. Meowth couldn't accept it either. Damn it. Damn brat. Damn yellow-skinned rat. You're all speechless. I know this time it's my fault. Just you wait, next time, I'll definitely get my revenge. That damn yellow-skinned rat, I'll skin it alive. Musashi was furious. She shifted all the blame to poor Mu Chen. If that yellow-skinned rat hadn't suddenly gone crazy and provoked the giant Dragonite, how could they have been so unlucky as to become the target of Dragonite's firepower? Although the Dragonite didn't kill them, their expensive cannon was completely destroyed. At this moment, the trio was not far from being homeless. What should we do next? Seeing that Musashi didn't argue with him but instead admitted her mistake, Kojiro naturally didn't dare to say anything more. Right now, the most important thing for the trio was how to proceed. Meow, ask the boss for funding and withdraw next month's allowance in advance. Just tell the boss we've found a rare Pokémon. Then, we'll go to Vermilion City and wait for those two brats. At this moment, Jesse displayed a boss-like demeanor. Chapter 39 Communication with the Silly Fish. Pikachu Pikachu, a frustrated cry escaped Mu Chen's lips. At this moment, Ash and Misty had already said goodbye to Bill and embarked on their gym challenge journey once again. Compared to Ash's excitement and Misty's tranquility, Mu Chen was incredibly frustrated. Damn it. Less than 10 days left. The system's chain of quests had less than 10 days left until the deadline. But the damned fellfish still showed no signs of evolving. The thought of facing that terrifying scene filled Mu Chen with despair. Was he really destined to deal with this ugly fish? What's wrong with Pikachu these past few days? Why is it always so listless? Was it scared before? Looking at the dejected Pikachu in her arms, Misty was filled with questions. This little guy's mood had been getting lower and lower since leaving Bill's lighthouse. What happened? Previously, Xiaoxia had felt sorry for Pikachu and even changed her cuddling position to let it have its way, hoping to cheer the little guy up. But unexpectedly, Pikachu, who had previously been so eager to take advantage, was now completely ignoring this. Now, Xiaoxia was completely panicked. Could Pikachu really be scared? That shouldn't be the case. This little guy was the one who provoked that giant dragonite. How could it be afraid because of that? Xiaoxia was very confident in Pikachu's courage. This little guy would be fearless no matter how terrifying the opponent. This was the confidence Xiaoxia had in Pikachu because of its performance. Of course, if she knew the truth. I don't know, maybe Pikachu is just worried because it didn't fight that giant dragonite last time? Looks like I need to find Pikachu a worthy opponent. Only battle can get its spirits up. Ash's thought process was always unconventional. Pikachu, Mu Chen, who had been listless, was so angry at Ash's idiotic words that he almost went over and gave him a good electric shock. What the hell? I'm about to have a breakdown, okay? But unfortunately, Mu Chen couldn't tell anyone about his pain. Finally, after a day's travel, Ash and Misty decided to spend the night in the wilderness. After all, Bill's lighthouse was in the opposite direction from Vermilion Town. During this journey, apart from the occasional trainer's inn, they had to spend all their time in the open. And today, without finding an inn, their only option was to spend the night in the wilderness. At midnight, after Ash and Misty had fallen into deep sleep, a stealthy figure appeared before them. This was Mu Chen, dressed as Pikachu. Of course, Mu Chen wasn't up in the middle of the night to do anything unhealthy like a night raid on Misty. After all, taking advantage of Xiaoxia occasionally is no difficult task for Mu Chen these days, so there's no need for him to take such a big risk. Mu Chen's only purpose in getting up now is the Pokeball hanging on Xiao Zhi's waist, which has captured the Fellfish. As for why Mu Chen wants the Pokeball? Of course, releasing it is out of the question. With a system mission in place, releasing it would be tantamount to failure. Thinking about the cost of failure, Mu Chen simply doesn't have the courage. Therefore, what Mu Chen needs to do now is open the Pokeball and cultivate a bond with the Fellfish. There's no escaping it, and with no other options, Mu Chen can only choose to accept it. However, it's not the final moment yet, and Mu Chen certainly doesn't have the courage to act prematurely. Damn it. I'll look at this ugly fish every day, look and look, vomit and vomit, and I'll get used to it. Once I get used to it, I'll just close my eyes, grit my teeth, and it'll be over, right? For the sake of his future happy life, Mu Chen chose to sacrifice his own interests for the greater good. Cluck cluck. Of course, the clumsy fish had no idea what Mu Chen was thinking. The moment it was summoned, it started splashing around frantically. Holy crap! What are you doing, yelling like that in the middle of the night? Seeing the clumsy fish splashing around, Mu Chen panicked. What if he woke up Ash or Misty? How was he supposed to explain? Was he supposed to tell them he was hungry and wanted to try some grilled fish? In a panic, Mu Chen could only pick up the clumsy fish and quickly disappear into the nearby woods. Damn, why is it so heavy? Mu Chen hadn't thought much of it when Ash occasionally carried the clumsy fish. But now that he was carrying it, he realized its weight. This is incredible. I don't think I struggled this much when I carried a 100-pound bag of rice back in the day. System, I'll effing fuck your grandpa. You gave me an ugly thing, fine, but a fat one at that. Why didn't you just kill me? At this moment, Mu Chen felt as if the malice of the whole world was surging towards him. However, this guy forgot that with his tiny frame, it was already difficult enough for him to even lift a clumsy fish. Pika pika. Finally, after running all the way and sweating profusely, Mu Chen carried the clumsy fish to a place where it wouldn't wake up Xiao Zhi and the other two. Looking at the clumsy fish in front of him with its dazed eyes and constant splashing, Mu Chen felt a bitter taste in his mouth. Fish brother. No. Fish sister. Can you understand what I'm saying? Because of that damn system, we're tied together. I had no choice but to do this to you. If you can understand, please evolve quickly. At least if you evolve, my psychological pressure will be relieved a bit. After a long, rambling monologue, Mu Chen sadly discovered that the silly fish was still splashing around in place, completely unresponsive. Pikachu, can you even understand me? If you can, at least give me a reply. At this moment, Mu Chen felt like a complete idiot. Like casting pearls before swine, he was now trying to woo a fish. Cheep cheep. Just as Mu Chen was about to despair, the silly fish suddenly let out its simple and honest, chirping sound. Holy crap! You can understand? Seeing that the silly fish had actually responded, Mu Chen felt as if a door of hope was opening for him. If this ugly fish could understand, then maybe if he discussed evolution with it every day, he might have a chance to help it evolve successfully? Since he knew absolutely nothing about the silly fish's evolution requirements, this was the only method Mu Chen could think of at the moment. Cluck cluck. But Alice, just as Mu Chen was getting excited, the silly fish reverted to its previous state and began another round of splashing around. Damn it. Chapter 40 followed the wrong master. What's wrong with Pikachu? Why does it seem even more listless today? Ash, how many days until we reach Vermilion Town? I see Vermilion Town, maybe we should let Nurse Joy take a look. After dawn, Ash and Misty, having regained their energy, naturally continue their journey to Vermilion Town. However, the observant Misty noticed that Pikachu's condition was even more depressed than before. She even noticed obvious dark circles under Pikachu's eyes. What's going on? Is Pikachu really sick? Because her affection for Pikachu had deepened, seeing Pikachu in such a state naturally made Misty very distressed. Pika Pika, holy crap. The previously listless Mu Chen was startled by Misty's words. But no. Please don't let me be handed over to that fat, stupid egg again. The thought of possibly encountering another Blissy's clutches made Mu Chen tense. I'm not sick at all. In his current state, all he felt was frustration and insomnia last night. Yes, the pitiful Mu Chen was sleepless. After talking to that idiot fishy for half the night, Mu Chen finally realized that the fish couldn't understand what he was saying at all. Helpless, Mu Chen could only pick up Fishy again and, covered in sweat, return it to its original spot. But, after doing all this, Mu Chen just couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Every time he thought about attacking that ugly fish, Mu Chen felt like crying. Was there really no other way? Based on Mu Chen's understanding of the Pokémon world, the conditions for Pokémon to evolve were nothing more than leveling up through constant battles, or using those rare evolution stones. But the problem was, this ugly fish, even if it battled for 100 years, probably wouldn't reach the evolution level. If I'm a weakling with only 5 battle points, then this ugly fish is just cannon fodder. Although Ash is a battle maniac, he always has to challenge any Pokémon he sees, whether in training or wild. However, currently, Frill's record is 0 wins and N losses. This is truly driving Mu Chen crazy. Battle evolution is unreliable, and evolution stones are even more unpredictable. Mu Chen knows he's basically facing this terrifying reality. As for when he'll face it, that's just a matter of time. However, what Mu Chen doesn't know is that there are more than just these 2 conditions for Pokémon evolution. There's another, increasing friendship level to achieve evolution. Because of the system, Frill's friendship bond has been changed to Mu Chen himself. After spending half the night with him yesterday, Frill has begun to change, and is only 1 step away from successful evolution. Unfortunately, Mu Chen doesn't know that the system is also maliciously reminding him, Xiaoxia, I think you're overthinking it. Pikachu is full of energy, isn't it? See? There's a trainer ahead. Let's go challenge him. I believe Pikachu will fully recover after a satisfying battle. During his travels, Ash's greatest hobby is battling Pokémon with others. Now that he'd met a trainer, Ash was itching to battle. Pikachu, holy crap. Can't you think of anything else besides battling? Can't you learn from me? Have some hobbies that normal men enjoy? Mu Chen was utterly speechless at Ash. But as for battling, he absolutely wouldn't go. Let whoever wants to go ahead. He had no interest in battling. Hello. I'm Ash from Pallet Town. Shall we have a Pokémon battle? Ash, of course, had no idea what Mu Chen was thinking. Upon seeing an opponent, Ash was already excitedly rushing forward. Sigh, Ash. Having such a trainer must be tough for you. Pikachu, watching Ash excitedly go off to challenge someone, Misty, lagging behind, sighed helplessly at Pikachu in her arms. Pikachu, Pikachu, you understand me. The difference is always apparent in comparison. Hearing Xiaoxia's understanding words, Mu Chen almost cried with emotion. At least, there was someone who understood him. Unfortunately, this person wasn't his master. Xiaoxia, bring Pikachu over quickly, we're going to battle. Just as Mu Chen was feeling grateful for Xiaoxia's understanding, Xiaoxi's excited voice came from ahead. Clearly, the trainer on the other side had agreed to Xiaoxi's challenge. Pikachu, screw you. I refuse to fight. Already in a bad mood, the comparison with this understanding little girl Xiaoxia only deepened Mu Chen's aversion to the battle. Whatever, I'm not going. Hey. Pikachu, what's wrong? Let's have a battle, and you'll feel better. won't you?" Seeing Pikachu switch back to its refusal to fight mode, Zyozhi panicked. He had already agreed with the other trainer, so why did Pikachu ditch him at this crucial moment? "Hey, are you going to fight or not?" The trainer who was supposed to battle Ash was completely unaware of his current predicament. Seeing Ash hesitate to send out his Pokémon, the trainer's patience began to wane. "What's this? You're the one who challenged me. What's wrong? Are you scared of my Beedrill?" At this moment, the trainer had already summoned his Pokémon. A buzzing Beedrill was hovering above his head. "Fight. Why not?" "Fine, in that case, you're chosen, Feraligatr." Pikachu refused to fight, and Pidgeotto remained in its Pokéball, so Ash's choice was naturally Feraligatr. Although Feraligatr currently had a 0% win rate, Ash was confident that it would break this embarrassing record sooner or later. Maybe, in this very battle? Ha ha ha. This is your Pokémon? I advise you not to fight. Seeing the constantly flapping Feraligatr, the trainer mocked Ash without any politeness. "Feraligatr? Are you kidding me? In the Pokémon world, this thing and Magikarp seem to be the two weakest creatures, right? Damn it. Don't underestimate my Felfish." Battle, Felfish, use tackle. Even Ash, with his fierce determination, was slightly embarrassed by the mockery. Cluck cluck, Felfish obeyed. Following Ash's command, Felfish flipped over and hopped towards Beedrill. But this only earned it a louder laugh from the trainer. "Ha ha ha. That's hilarious. It thinks it can even hit my Beedrill. Beedrill can fly." Chapter 41 Changes in Mindset. "I choose you, Pikachu." This time, Mu Chen showed no resistance to Ash's command. Before Ash even finished speaking, Mu Chen had already charged forward. "Pikachu." At this moment, Mu Chen's heart was filled with rage. "Damn it. Although Feraligatr is ugly, she's still my girl. You dare bully my girl, and even dare to poke her with your broken needle? You know, I haven't even poked her yet." Although Mu Chen still couldn't accept Feraligatr's ugly appearance, under the pressure of the system task, he had already accepted this fact. Moreover, Mu Chen knew exactly what Feraligatr looked like after evolving. It was precisely because of this that Mu Chen, who had been incredibly lazy and wanting to observe from the sidelines, finally made his move. What could he do? His heart was smaller than Beedrill's needle. When he saw Beedrill use its pair of stingers, and even the stinger on its tail, to stab his clumsy fish repeatedly, Mu Chen was furious. A small flame called jealousy burned fiercely in his not-so-large chest. As a real man, Mu Chen's possessiveness was extremely strong. Once he decided something was his, he would absolutely not allow anyone to touch it. And today, right before Mu Chen's eyes, this Beedrill had actually stabbed his clumsy fish dozens of times. How could he tolerate this? "Pikachu? Beedrill, use Poison Sting." Although Beedrill can fly, its type is Poison Bug, so it is not weak against the electric-type Pikachu. Therefore, after brutally defeating Clumsy Fish, Ash's opponent was not worried at all when seeing this charging Pikachu. But unfortunately, Ash's opponent did not know that Pikachu had already begun to walk the path to becoming a Pikachu god. Buzz! Beedrill brandished its twin needles, coated in a thick layer of venom, at its trainer's command. Pikachu, fury burning within him, Mu Chen didn't care about anything else. Zzz. This time, Mu Chen didn't unleash the same old electric shock that only gave people a quick burn. Having completed the previous provocation mission, Mu Chen now possessed Thunderbolt, Pikachu's signature move. Using a powerful move without using it wouldn't be in Mu Chen's nature. Suddenly, dazzling electricity crackled across Mu Chen's cheeks as he charged forward. Then, the electricity coalesced into a terrifying surge of energy, shooting wildly towards the still-posing Beedrill. During the trajectory, the electricity grew thicker and thicker, until finally, a bolt of lightning almost 3 times the thickness of a fist slammed into Beedrill's fragile body. "Pikachu, damn it! You dare bully my girl, you dare stab my girl. I'll electrocute you." This furious 100,000-volt attack shocked everyone present. Although he was somewhat prepared, seeing the Beedrill, charred black and convulsing from his electric shock, still filled Mu Chen with astonishment. Holy crap! That was powerful? Keep in mind, Mu Chen's base stats weren't high, and his level was only 10. At this level, even using electric shock on a weakling like a Feraligatr, which was super effective against him, wouldn't produce such an explosive effect. But now, looking at the convulsing Beedrill, Mu Chen suddenly realized that battle could be a joyful thing. Ha ha ha. Pikachu, that's awesome. The carefree Ash didn't consider why Pikachu had used such a powerful move as 100,000 volts. At this moment, his only focus was on the outcome of the battle. Of course, unlike Ash, Misty was amazed by Pikachu's growth. What was Pikachu's strength when she first encountered it? And now? How much time had passed? Good heavens. In just over half a month, this little guy has improved so much? You know, when it first encountered Pikachu, this little guy was even chased all over the streets by Pidgeotto, a Pokémon that Pikachu is super effective against. And now, it has grown into a powerful Pokémon capable of standing alone. You're amazing, I lose. Ash put away his Beedrill, the look of shock in his opponent's eyes lingering. Who would have thought that this random opponent would be a wolf in sheep's clothing? Although he still had other Pokémon, this trainer clearly had no interest in being humiliated. That 2-finger-thick 100,000 volts? That's ridiculous. The trainer was already very grateful that Beedrill was still twitching instead of dying outright. Not going to fight anymore? I sent out 2 Pokémon? Hearing his opponent say no, Ash's excitement immediately diminished. He was just getting into it, why is he stopping now? Alright, Ash, let's go. Seeing Ash's still lingering expression, Misty sighed helplessly. Pikachu's strength is getting stronger and stronger. Ash will probably be even more eager to challenge others to battles in the future. But it's really strange, isn't it? Why was Pikachu so resistant to battles before, but after Feraligator's crushing defeat, the little guy became enraged? Could it be that it also has a heart to protect the weak? Thinking of Pikachu's behavior after Feraligator's defeat, Misty looked at Pikachu even more highly. This is a Pokémon full of justice and chivalry. Of course, this is because Misty doesn't know the little secret in Mu Chen's heart. Otherwise, after defeating their opponent, Ash and Pikachu would have continued their journey to Vermilion Town. Nestled in Misty's arms, Mu Chen's heart was still unsettled. Although he had experienced defeating opponents in a flash before, it was different from this kind of crushing victory based on absolute strength. After crushing Beedrill, Mu Chen suddenly realized he should change his attitude. While completing the system's tasks would grant boosts to his base stats and skills, it wouldn't raise his level. Ash was still in the beginner's village, facing relatively weak opponents. But this kid was about to leave the beginner's village. Mu Chen could make a normal choice between bullying and being bullied. Who has a masochistic tendency? Besides, if he wanted to build his own support group, he needed considerable strength to control them. At this moment, Mu Chen was filled with boundless motivation. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Mu Chen begins to grow. I am Ash from Pallet Town, accept my challenge. Standing before the gates of the electric-type gym in Vermilion Town, Ash's eyes were filled with unwavering determination. Ever since Pikachu used Thunderbolt to utterly defeat Beedrill, the little guy seemed like a different person, actively seeking out battles. This naturally delighted Ash. Along the way, although he hadn't successfully caught any Pokémon, Ash had defeated quite a few opponents thanks to Pikachu's powerful attacks. Whether wild Pokémon or trained Pokémon, all had fallen to Pikachu's formidable Thunderbolt. It was precisely because of Pikachu's strong performance that Ash was so confident. He had successfully earned 2 gym badges even when Pikachu wasn't cooperating, how much more so now that Pikachu had greatly improved and mastered a powerful move like Thunderbolt? Now, Ash was filled with fighting spirit and confidence for this Vermilion Town gym challenge. Pikachu, similarly, Mu Chen, whose strength had greatly improved, was also looking forward to the gym challenge for the first time. After crushing the weaker opponents along the way, Mu Chen's level had now reached 21, a dramatic change in strength. Although Mu Chen couldn't see the changes from leveling up on his stats panel, he had truly experienced the impact of this in battle. For example, his Thunderbolt attack. The first one against Beedrill, launched in anger, was about 2 fingers thick, but afterwards it was only about 1 finger thick, its power significantly reduced. But with his level increase, Mu Chen could now easily unleash a Thunderbolt that was 2 fingers thick, and if he charged it up, the largest Thunderbolt could even reach 3 fingers thick. This was true thunder and lightning. Because of this, Mu Chen was completely unafraid of the gym challenge. Bring it on. What storms, what gym challenges, bring it all. After all the battles along the way, Mu Chen's mindset has changed drastically. After all, he is now a Pokémon. That's unchangeable. If he wants to survive well in this world, if he wants to protect those he wants to protect, if he wants to build his ideal cheering squad, then he needs absolute strength. There's no reason for me, with the system's help, to continue being a weakling. I am Pikachu. How? Kid, you want to challenge my gym? Very well. Let me see your Pokémon. As the owner of the electric-type gym in Vermilion Town, Lieutenant Surge has a rugged appearance. Of course, he's not just rugged in appearance, but also in his manner. After he finished speaking, he ignored Ash's reaction, pushed him aside, and reached out to grab Misty's chest behind Ash. Of course, he wasn't going to do anything inappropriate for children. It's just that Mu Chen was still nestled in Misty's arms, and this guy's goal was to see Pikachu. Pikachu, seeing Lieutenant Surge dare to attack his little sister, Mu Chen was instantly enraged. Sizzle, a bolt of electricity flashed. Because Mu Chen was currently in Misty's arms, to avoid hurting her, the electricity only lingered on his cheeks. Ha ha ha, quite the spirited little thing. However, an unevolved Pokémon can't possibly defeat me. You can leave. Lieutenant Surge arrogantly shook his head, glancing at Pikachu. In his mind, evolution was inevitable for Pokémon. What fighting power could an unevolved baby Pokémon have? I'm going to challenge the gym. Pikachu, enraged by Lieutenant Surge's arrogant attitude, both Ash and Mu Chen's eyes blazed with fury. Damn it, dare to underestimate me? So what if I haven't evolved? I'll still crush you even without evolving. Evolution. This was Mu Chen's eternal pain. He knew that there were only 4 days left until the deadline for the Feraligator mission. Although Mu Chen had repeatedly taken out the fellfish during his travels to talk to it, the creature remained unresponsive. At this moment, Mu Chen was utterly desperate and even prepared to face reality. But unexpectedly, this arrogant Lieutenant Surge dared to reopen his old wounds. How could he tolerate this? Since you're looking for a beating, I'll grant your wish. Come in. Seeing that Ash wouldn't listen to his advice, Lieutenant Surge's lips curled into a cold smile. Naive boy, today I, Lieutenant Surge, will show you just how important evolution is in the world of Pokémon. Gym leader, what are the rules for your gym challenge? Unlike Ash, Misty was much calmer. Although she had been startled by Lieutenant Surge's actions, she was very satisfied with Pikachu's performance. It gave her a feeling of being protected. Now that the gym challenge was about to begin, Misty naturally wanted to help Ash and Pikachu clarify the rules. Otherwise, if they were restricted by the rules, it would be a huge loss. After all, not everyone in this world is friendly to new league trainers like them. Challenge the rules? Ha ha ha, it's simple. I'll send out 3 Pokémon in turn. If you can defeat all 3, the Thunder Badge of Vermilion Town is yours. How many Pokémon you send is entirely up to you. By the way, because of the League's support for you new generation trainers, only the last of my 3 Pokémon is my true main Pokémon. In this world, the League has imposed certain restrictions on gyms in various regions to cultivate new trainers. After all, if you send out your main Pokémon right away, very few people will be able to successfully challenge them. This simply cannot promote the growth and progress of trainers. No problem. I'll only send 1 Pokémon, Pikachu. Pidgeotto's flying type and Feraligator's water type are doomed in this electric type gym. Although Ash doesn't care about type advantages anymore, he can still tell that Pikachu's strength far surpasses the other 2. Therefore, Ash pinned all his hopes for victory on Pikachu. Chapter 43 Battle Against the Lightning Ball. Charge, Voltorb. The battle began, and Lieutenant Surge summoned his Pokémon. Bzzz, after a crackling sound of electricity, something resembling a Pokéball appeared before Lieutenant Surge. This was the electric-type Pokémon, Voltorb. Pikachu. Mu Chen had no intention of being polite to the arrogant Lieutenant Surge. Damn it. How dare they reopen old wounds? How dare they attack my little sister? Today, if I don't knock all of your Pokémon down, I'll change my name. Pikachu, battle. Use Thunderbolt. Along the way, Ash naturally knew all of Pikachu's current moves. This time, he didn't stubbornly have Pikachu use Quick Attack, but instead chose to unleash the powerful Thunderbolt. After all, Ash was also growing. Thunderbolt? You underestimated me. Voltorb, use Light Screen to block Pikachu's attack. Hearing Ash's command, Lieutenant Surge showed a slight look of surprise. This little thing, it can use a powerful move like Thunderbolt? This was truly beyond his expectations. Lieutenant Surge knew that if Pikachu could really use Thunderbolt, then his Voltorb would definitely be no match. Therefore, Lieutenant Surge abandoned a direct confrontation and instead chose to have Voltorb use Light Screen, a defensive move that could block special attacks. However, Lieutenant Surge greatly underestimated Mu Chen. Pikachu, you see, Mu Chen had already started charging up beforehand. Now that the battle had begun, Mu Chen's charging up was already complete. Although Voltorb released a visible light screen, Mu Chen completely ignored it. What the hell? A broken light screen thinks it can block my charged up ultimate move. You're dreaming. After letting out a cry, electricity began to surge across Mu Chen's cheeks. Then, the electricity converged, and a 3-finger thick bolt of electricity slammed into the posed, light-walled thunderball. Boom! A massive explosion resounded. No one present had expected Pikachu's Thunderbolt to cause such a violent explosion. After the explosion, a cloud of dust rose across the arena. Slowly, as the dust settled, everyone finally saw the effect of the Thunderbolt. The light wall in front of Thunderball had vanished, and even Thunderball itself was swaying precariously in the air, as if it might collapse at any moment. Clearly, Mu Chen's Thunderbolt had achieved a very satisfactory effect. How is this possible? Damn it! Thunderball, use explosion. Lieutenant Surge was already astonished that Pikachu could use Thunderbolt. Now, seeing the damage caused by this Thunderbolt, Lieutenant Surge was filled with even greater shock. What the hell? This is too much? You know, Light Screen is a move that most special attacks can barely penetrate. But what did Lieutenant Surge see? The light screen was gone, and the Voltorb that created it was almost struck and rendered powerless. Impossible. Impossible. How could an unevolved Pokémon use such a powerful Thunderbolt? This is completely illogical. At this moment, Lieutenant Surge was filled with disbelief. Shame and anger began to rise in his heart. You know, just before, Lieutenant Surge had mocked Ash and Pikachu. Now, this slap in the face came too quickly. In his shame and anger, Lieutenant Surge no longer held back and directly chose to have Voltorb use a move that would cause mutual destruction, explosion. This move ignites the user's own energy, resulting in violent explosive damage. Generally, even if the user doesn't die immediately, they will enter a near-death state and need a long time to recover. But absolute price is exchanged for absolute power. The damage caused by the explosion move is no joke. Lieutenant Surge refused to believe that Pikachu's small frame could withstand the blast of a Voltorb. Lieutenant Surge, had to prove that all unevolved Pokémon were trash. Pikachu, don't be afraid of him, use Thunderbolt again. Ash was filled with excitement after almost defeating his opponent with a single Thunderbolt. What explosion? Could it be as powerful as my Pikachu's Thunderbolt? Clearly, Ash was once again in a state of blissful overconfidence. Pikachu, watch out! Unlike Ash, Misty turned pale upon hearing Lieutenant Surge's command. Explosion? Was Lieutenant Surge crazy? Ash was just a trainer challenging a gym. You know, the explosion move Voltorb is usually only used by trainers in life or death battles in the wild. Mu Chen wasn't stupid, he naturally ignored Ash's idiotic command. Don't be afraid of him? You're kidding. You're far enough away, but I'm right next to this thing. If that thing explodes, I'm doomed. Although Mu Chen's confidence had grown after numerous battles, it didn't mean he'd blindly confront it like Ash. That was never Mu Chen's style. Crackling sounds. At this moment, the Voltorb had entered the activation phase of its explosion move. Countless sparks flickered around the Voltorb. Pikachu, seeing this, what could Mu Chen possibly do? In an instant, Mu Chen turned around, unleashing a lightning bolt, leaving the Voltorb with a golden rear end. Whatever. Go explode yourself, I'm not playing along. Of course, Mu Chen wouldn't just run off the field, that would mean he'd lost a match. Although the unreliable system didn't issue any missions this time, Mu Chen never wanted to accept defeat against Lieutenant Surge. Boom! Just as Mu Chen turned to run away, the fully charged Thunderball exploded. A deafening roar followed, and the entire gym seemed to be enveloped in a curtain of light. Standing at the edge of the arena, Mu Chen was filled with relief. This is insane. This power? It's ridiculous. Luckily, I was smart enough to run away early. Otherwise, if I had listened to that idiot Ash. Chapter 44 will electrify you in an instant. Pikachu, This battle is yours." Lieutenant Surge's face was ashen, a dark, almost blackened mess. He'd previously used Explosion with Voltorb, a rather underhanded move, but it only resulted in a spectacular firework display. That wretched Pikachu hadn't even been scratched. How could Lieutenant Surge not be furious? But he hadn't hesitated, he'd already boasted, so he had to summon this equally neglected Pikachu. HMPH. Even if you can defeat my Voltorb, even if you can defeat my Pikachu, I don't believe you can defeat my final main Pokémon. Lieutenant Surge had absolutely no confidence in the Pikachu he'd sent out. It was the same Pikachu, but his only skill was Thunder Wave, learned through a TM CD. But Pikachu's? It unleashed a massive 100,000 volts, 3 fingers thick. There was simply no comparison. Pikachu, of course, Pikachu was unaware of its master's intentions. Summoned by Lieutenant Surge, Pikachu immediately assumed a battle stance. Even though its opponent was a fellow Pokémon, it had no desire to communicate with it. Pikachu, of course, Mu Chen had even less of a thought for this. Although he had gradually accepted the fact that he was a Pokémon, it didn't mean his soul had become one. In the end, Mu Chen's soul, his thoughts, and his heart were still those of a true man. Otherwise, he wouldn't have developed an interest in Misty and other young ladies. Pikachu. Let's battle. Use Thunderbolt. Since Mu Chen mastered the Thunderbolt move, Ash had completely forgotten about Quick Attack. After all, its power was undeniable, and Ash wasn't really an idiot. This guy was just occasionally a bit reckless. HMPH. Pikachu, use Thunder Wave. Lieutenant Surge wasn't about to be outdone. Although he had no hope for this battle, giving up wasn't his style. After all, Lieutenant Surge was a soldier through and through. Unlike the two trainers already engaged in battle, Misty, as an observer, was in complete disarray. Good heavens. 2 Pikachu, 2 trainers calling for Pikachu, it was so confusing. Fortunately, Misty's confusion wouldn't last long. Pikachu, 2 cries rang out from the mouths of the 2 Pikachu. Then, each Pikachu used its own move. Of course, the damage effects of these 2 moves were vastly different. Although this Thunderbolt attack wasn't charged, the base damage of Thunderbolt was still there. How could Thunder Wave compare to Thunderbolt? 2 streams of electricity shot out from the cheeks of the 2 Pikachu. Sizzle sizzle, as the 2 currents collided, countless sparks began to leap at the point of contact. Boom, after a brief stalemate, a loud bang rang out. When the bang subsided, the electromagnetic wave released by Lieutenant Surge's Pikachu had long since disappeared. In its place was Mu Chen's Thunderbolt, still fiercely shooting towards its enemy. Although Lieutenant Surge's Pikachu made a dodging motion, how could a Pokémon's speed be faster than electricity? Lieutenant Surge's Pikachu had only just turned around when the Thunderbolt struck its fragile body hard. Although it was also an electric-type Pokémon, and although it could negate a great deal of damage from electric-type moves, Pikachu, whose physique was even smaller than a Voltorb, could not withstand Mu Chen's Thunderbolt. What a piece of trash! Seeing his Pikachu defeated in one move, Lieutenant Surge's face darkened even more. Although he was prepared for defeat, he didn't want to lose so badly, did he? Being electrocuted by a brat's Pikachu was a disgrace to Lieutenant Surge. Ha ha ha. Well done, Pikachu. I knew you could do it. Unlike Lieutenant Surge's anger, Ash almost jumped onto the roof. In the gym challenge, his opponent sent 3 Pokémon, and he had already defeated 2. The electric-type gym's Thunder Badge was now before Ash. As for Lieutenant Surge's last Pokémon being his main force, with consecutive victories, Ash had long forgotten that irrelevant remark. Having electrocuted his opponent, Mu Chen stood up on his own 2 legs, his short arms crossed in front of his chest. HMPH. See? My strength isn't something you, a big oaf, can underestimate. Of course, it wasn't just Mu Chen and Ash who were excited. Misty, watching the battle, was equally thrilled. Over the course of nearly a month, Xiaoxia had developed a deep bond with Pikachu. Although this little rascal always seemed to find opportunities to cause trouble when she wasn't looking, and although its intelligence astonished her, Xiaoxia forgot all her minor annoyances when it fearlessly charged into battle against powerful enemies and stood up for her. Pikachu was the embodiment of courage and justice. Even its tendency to take advantage of her was simply a display of its uniqueness. At this point, Xiaoxia herself didn't realize that she no longer resented Pikachu taking advantage of her, she even felt a little anticipation. After all, She was only at the age of first love. Aside from its appearance, Xiaoxia couldn't see any difference in intelligence between Pikachu and humans. Of course, as a girl, she still had to maintain a certain level of reserve. So, whenever this little Pikachu tried to grope her, Xiaoxia would give it a good pinching and squeezing. This had even become a source of amusement for them, a little secret shared only between them. As for Ash, Mu Chen's master, this guy, whose heart was bigger than the sky, hadn't noticed a single clue about the unusual relationship between Misty and Pikachu. Kid, I have to admit, your Pikachu does have some strength, but if that's all, it's absolutely no match for me. Go, Raichu. After his anger subsided, a sinister smile appeared on Lieutenant Surge's face. Chapter 45: A different kind of system task punishment. Ding ding, random mission activated. The war between evolved and unevolved. Mission requirement: defeat the evolved Raichu. Mission reward: a random increase of 5 points in your own base stats. Failure penalty: Misty's affection -1. Holy crap. What's going on? When Lieutenant Surge summoned Raichu, Mu Chen knew he was in for a tough battle. But before he could even prepare for the fight, the system's electronic voice rang in his mind. Mu Chen wasn't surprised at all by the system issuing random missions. In fact, he was looking forward to it. After all, only by completing system missions could he accelerate his path to power. But this time, the system mission had changed. Mu Chen completely understood the attribute point reward. That was normal. But what was this failure penalty? Misty's affection -1? Damn it. You might as well just randomly shorten a spot by 2 centimeters. Although Mu Chen couldn't see the affection level, didn't know its specific function, and didn't know how much affection he had with Misty, he wasn't stupid. Having played so many games in his past life, how could he not understand the concept of affinity? This is outrageous. If I lose, and the affinity between me and Xia decreases, wouldn't all my previous efforts be wasted? You have to understand, how much did I, Mu Chen, sacrifice to get Xia used to my ability to launch surprise attacks at any time? Damn it. My body was practically swollen from being pinched. Mu Chen absolutely could not accept this punishment for failure. He had finally managed to gradually break down Xia's resistance. How could he let it all go to waste now? No way. I absolutely refuse to agree. At this moment, Mu Chen suddenly felt that this system had completely grasped all his weaknesses. Otherwise, why would its punishments always hit the mark so perfectly? Chirp, just as Mu Chen was still struggling with this system task, the Raichu summoned by Lieutenant Surge let out a battle cry. Clearly, Raichu was very dissatisfied with the little thing standing there, seemingly lost in thought. What the hell? A mere Pikachu, facing my mighty Raichu, you dare to daydream, Pika Pika, you dare call me whatever you want? Can't you see I'm busy? Awakened from his reverie, Mu Chen was naturally in a bad mood. This sudden change in the system mission had caught Mu Chen completely off guard. Now, all his attention was focused on the system mission. He had no mind to pay attention to that idiot opposite him. What's wrong, trainer? Has your Pokémon lost its courage to fight after seeing Raichu? Seeing Pikachu ignore his Raichu's challenge, Lieutenant Surge sneered. Just a Pokémon that hasn't reached its ultimate evolution, finally feeling fear after seeing my incomparably powerful Raichu, huh? At this moment, Lieutenant Surge finally regained the dignity he had lost to those two useless Pokémon. This was how the script should play out. Pikachu. What's wrong with you? Fight. Similarly, seeing Pikachu suddenly distracted, Ash was also filled with confusion. Why was everything fine before, and then suddenly you're offline? If you want to give up, it's not too late. Considering your previous good performance, I'll give you another chance to challenge me. As long as your Pikachu can successfully evolve, I'm ready to accept your challenge anytime. Pikachu, just as he was brought back to his senses, he saw Lieutenant Surge putting on airs and acting high and mighty, and Mu Chen was furious. Screw you. Trying to act all high and mighty in front of me? Even without this system mission, I'd beat you to pulp today. Ha ha ha. Well done, Pikachu, that's it. Let's show our fighting spirit. Charge. Use quick attack. Seeing Pikachu regain its fighting spirit, the most excited person was naturally Ash. Without the slightest hesitation, Ash once again gave Mu Chen a headstrong attack command. As for why Ash didn't choose the previous command Thunderbolt, it was simply because Ash was also panicked by Mu Chen's momentary lapse in concentration. Now, The only thing that could boost his morale was close quarters combat, like quick attack. Normally, Mu Chen would absolutely ignore Xiao Zhi's orders. In fact, Xiao Zhi had gradually become accustomed to it. After all, Xiao Zhi wasn't really stupid. After so much time together and so many battles, how could he not realize that Mu Chen's combat awareness was several levels higher than his? But unfortunately, Xiao Zhi was a trainer, and as a trainer, he had to command his Pokémon in battle, otherwise, he wouldn't experience the joy of battle. Therefore, although Mu Chen often ignored Xiao Zhi's commands, he still tirelessly issued orders. But this time, something surprising happened to Xiao Zhi. Mu Chen didn't disobey his orders. This time, Mu Chen actually used himself as a weapon, transforming into a golden bolt of lightning, and shot towards the still challenging Raichu. Raichu, electric-type Pokémon, and both of them being from the electric mouse family, usually just exchanged skills in battle. After all, the difference between attack and special attack stats in Pikachu's family is far too great. No trainer would train their Pikachu to be an attack-focused build. Unexpectedly, this unevolved Pikachu dared to attack first, and in such a way. Caught off guard, Raichu didn't even have time to react before being knocked to the ground by Mu Chen's quick attack. Damn it! Raichu, get up! Use Swift Strike to retaliate. Raichu was one of his mainstays, and being knocked down by a mere Pikachu made Lieutenant Surge's face turn ashen. Now, the only thing that could ease his anger was defeating this despicable yellow-skinned rat and kicking this annoying trainer out. At this moment, Lieutenant Surge completely forgot the league's rule requiring new trainers to receive appropriate benefits. As for why he instructed Raichu to use Swift Strike, a normal-type move, to retaliate, it's important to know that electric-type Pokémon have extremely high resistance to electric-type moves. Mazushi wanted to take this wretched yellow-skinned rat down immediately. He had no patience for a slow, drawn-out battle. Only by defeating his opponent in one blow could he salvage his lost face. Chapter 46 Searching for Fighter Jets. Pikachu, Raichu, having flipped itself up, unleashed countless visible energy sparks. Similarly, Mu Chen, not to be outdone, unleashed the 100,000 volt attack. Damn it, does it think I'm made of clay? It thinks a single Swift Strike can take me down? After his initial quick attack, Mu Chen had planned to press his advantage and deliver a couple more powerful blows before Raichu could get up. But he hadn't expected this big fat rat to be so agile. Mu Chen had only just unleashed his second quick attack when Raichu had already flipped itself up. This time, with ample preparation, Mu Chen's small frame couldn't dent it. After all, its weight was a factor. Having successfully flipped itself up, Raichu immediately launched a counterattack after regaining its footing. And its counterattack method was the Swift Strike commanded by Lieutenant Surge. Swift is a normal-type special attack move. While its power is far less than Thunderbolt, its greatest advantage is its speed. Swift relies on its incredible speed to launch an attack, leaving the opponent no room to dodge. Faced with this rapidly approaching Swift, Mu Chen, at his current speed, obviously couldn't dodge. Therefore, Mu Chen retaliated without hesitation. Even if my instantaneous Thunderbolt wasn't powerful enough, couldn't I at least neutralize your Swift? Boom, the moves collided. The Thunderbolt's current struck the rapidly approaching Swift. Although Mu Chen's reaction was very quick, because he was on the defensive, the point of impact was still too close to him. Ha ha ha. Good. That's it. Raichu, use your ultimate move, Thunderbolt, electrified. Although this attack didn't achieve the expected effect, Lieutenant Surge managed to regain some of his lost face by using the explosive power to knock Pikachu over. When he discovered that Swift couldn't defeat Pikachu, Lieutenant Surge changed his tactics. Thunderbolt, it's not just you who knows it. Pikachu. Hold on, Ash was shocked to see Pikachu being knocked over by the explosive energy. His opponent was about to attack, and his Pikachu hadn't even gotten up yet. How could he defend this time? Pikachu, damn it, too slow. At this moment, Mu Chen was filled with self-reproach. If he had released his move just a fraction faster, the explosion wouldn't have been so close. Mu Chen knew that this Raichu was far superior to him in terms of level, base stats, and size. If he wanted to win, he had to catch it off guard with speed. Unfortunately, his first sneak attack failed, and now his move release wasn't fast enough to ensure his safety. At this moment, Raichu's Thunderbolt was fully charged. Mu Chen put aside his frustration and focused his attention back on the battle. Chirp! Just then, Raichu activated its Thunderbolt. After all, it was a fully evolved Raichu, and its level was far higher than Mu Chen's. This Thunderbolt, after being charged up, was almost as thick as 4 fingers. Looking at the incredibly powerful Thunderbolt in front of him, Mu Chen was so frightened that the hairs on his body stood on end. Holy crap! That thick? Mu Chen knew that with his small physique, if he were hit by Raichu's Thunderbolt, he would definitely become a roasted rat. Therefore, Mu Chen's choice was very simple: run. He absolutely couldn't win in a direct confrontation, so why not run and wait to be tortured? This was never in Mu Chen's nature. Using the acceleration of quick attack, Mu Chen sprinted towards the left side of the arena. Boom! Just after Mu Chen left, Raichu's Thunderbolt attacked the spot where he had been standing. HMPH. Run? You think you can escape? Raichu, keep going, Thunderbolt. Although the first Thunderbolt attack only produced a large firework, Lieutenant Surge wasn't angry. Little yellow mouse, just run. Lieutenant Surge knew that Pikachu was now firmly suppressed by his Raichu. As long as his attacks didn't stop, Pikachu wouldn't be able to dodge many times. After all, the arena was only so big. Once Raichu blocked all its escape routes, Pikachu was nothing more than a lamb to the slaughter. Pikachu. Counterattack. Use Thunderbolt. Seeing Pikachu only able to dodge under Raichu's powerful firepower, Ash urgently gave it a command. How could they win without counterattacking? This time, Ash saw through Lieutenant Surge's plan. Clearly, Lieutenant Surge was having Raichu constantly compress Pikachu's movement space. When Pikachu had nowhere to retreat, that would be the time to face Raichu's Thunderbolt. Pikachu, stop talking nonsense. Hearing Ash's voice from the sidelines, Mu Chen cursed inwardly. Counterattack? Use your brain, okay? How am I supposed to counter that much electricity? Besides, didn't you even notice what I'm doing right now? At first, Mu Chen was indeed frantically dodging Raichu's attacks. After all, that Thunderbolt attack was too terrifying. Mu Chen absolutely didn't have the courage to try it. But, as time passed, and with each dodge, Mu Chen finally found an opportunity to win. This Raichu's Thunderbolt is pretty powerful, but its release speed seems slow? This idiot, doesn't it know how to use instant cast moves? It keeps casting one after another. I'm really not under much pressure. But Mu Chen wanted more than just safe dodging. He wanted victory in this match. After discovering the brief pause after Raichu unleashed each Thunderbolt, Mu Chen saw a glimmer of victory. You stupid fool who only cares about power, today I'll teach you a lesson. With this plan in mind, Mu Chen began to circle Raichu, searching for the best angle to ambush it. Of course, to onlookers, it looked like Pikachu was being forced into a corner by Raichu, its movement space shrinking until it was almost cornered. Now, Raichu, Thunderbolt, take it down, end this game. Finally, after Pikachu dodged once more, Lieutenant Surge issued a kill command. Now, Pikachu had moved to a corner, with nowhere left to dodge. Defeating this annoying yellow mouse was now within reach. Chapter 47, Overdrafted. Pikachu, how is this possible? Haha, awesome. Pikachu, counterattack, use Thunderbolt again. Just as Lieutenant Surge was smugly believing victory was imminent, Pikachu, who had been dodging, attacked. While Raichu was still silently charging up for Thunderbolt, electricity flashed across Mu Chen's cheeks, and he unleashed an incredibly fast Thunderbolt. Although this Thunderbolt wasn't particularly powerful, its speed and suddenness were its strengths. Caught off guard, Raichu, still charging, was naturally hit. A scream came from its mouth. Seeing his Raichu being counterattacked, Lieutenant Surge was naturally filled with disbelief. In contrast, Ash was jumping and cheering excitedly. Pikachu! I knew you could do it. Ash has always had an indomitable spirit when it comes to battle, which Mu Chen calls a kind of inexplicable confidence. Now that Pikachu hadn't disappointed him, Ash was naturally overjoyed. Pikachu, strike while the iron is hot. Mu Chen knew this all too well. A quick Thunderbolt not only interrupted Raichu's charge but also briefly stunned the fat rat. While electric-type Pokémon are resistant to electric-type moves, it depends on the move, right? A powerful move like Thunderbolt could still inflict considerable damage. Of course, Mu Chen didn't heed Ash's instructions to continue using Thunderbolt. After all, even the fastest Thunderbolt has a time limit. Mu Chen's choice was quick attack. While you're stunned, who else am I going to hit? Last time you got a chance to get up, this time you get up again, I'll change my name to yours. Damn it. Raichu, use tackle to block it. Seeing Pikachu transform into lightning and charge at his Raichu again, Lieutenant Surge quickly reacted. But Alice, he was still a step too slow. Bang, chirp, in a flash, Mu Chen gave Raichu no chance to retaliate, directly slamming him into a lightning bolt using himself as a weapon. Pikachu, this time, Mu Chen didn't hesitate at all. After knocking Raichu down, Mu Chen immediately followed up with a thunderbolt. Sizzle, electricity crackled, and Raichu, at such close range, had no chance to dodge. Chirp, a scream rang out again. Mu Chen showed no mercy, quickly unleashing another thunderbolt. HMPH. You fat rat, trying to outdo me with high power? I'll show you what a fast shooter is today. Seeing the pitiful Raichu in the arena, the spectators were all stunned. This damn Pikachu is too ferocious. The thunderbolt seemed to be poured onto Raichu relentlessly. Although Raichu was sturdy enough, high level enough, and highly resistant to electric type moves, it couldn't withstand Mu Chen's relentless attacks. After a while, Raichu finally succumbed to dizziness and entered a near-death state. Alright. You win this match. Tell your Pikachu to stop. Seeing Raichu already unconscious, but Pikachu still preparing its next thunderbolt, Lieutenant Surge panicked. What a joke. Raichu was already on the verge of death. If it took another thunderbolt, it would be half dead, if not dead. It was his main Pokémon, after all, and Lieutenant Surge wasn't going to let Raichu continue to be whipped by this wretched yellow mouse. Oh. Pikachu. Stop. We won. Reminded by Lieutenant Surge, Ash finally recovered from his shock. Although Ash had been confident in Pikachu, he never expected it to win so brutally. Pikachu, hearing Ash's call, Mu Chen reluctantly withdrew his last thunderbolt. HMPH. Fat rat, you're lucky. If this weren't a gym battle, I'd have roasted you alive. But just as Mu Chen was about to strike a pose, a sudden wave of exhaustion washed over him. Holy crap. Damn it, I'm exhausted. The sudden weakness made Mu Chen realize what had happened. Clearly, his reckless use of Thunderbolt had left him completely drained. Pikachu. Pikachu, what's wrong? Ash was excitedly receiving the Vermilion Town Lightning Badge from Lieutenant Surge. The one who noticed the exhausted Pikachu collapsed was Misty. Pikachu, I'm fine. Mu Chen smiled slightly at Zioxia, his mind starting to wander. Damn it. No way. I have to hold on. Mu Chen knew he could recover after a night's rest. But if he really passed out, he'd inevitably be taken to the Pokémon Center by that idiot Ash. If there was one place Mu Chen had missed the most since arriving in this world, it would undoubtedly be the Pokémon Center. I don't want that fat, chubby egg to mess with. This was Mu Chen's unwavering resolve. For this reason, Mu Chen forcefully broke free from Zioxia's warm embrace, using his last bit of strength to climb onto Ash's shoulder. At least it wasn't as comfortable here, and he wouldn't just fall asleep, right? Ha ha ha. Zioxia, see? Pikachu is still best with me. Pikachu willingly climbed onto his shoulder, much to Ash's delight, who was unaware of the situation. Ash, let's find a place to rest for a bit, and continue our journey tomorrow. Misty, being observant, naturally guessed the reason behind Pikachu's behavior. Reluctantly, Misty could only remind Ash to find a place to rest for the day. However, the two who left the gym were unaware that they were already being watched by several pairs of eyes filled with murderous intent. Jessie, the target has been identified. Get ready. Meow, the ones secretly watching Ash and his group were naturally the Team Rocket trio. Whether it was to capture the Starmie that Jessie coveted, or to defeat these two despicable brats for revenge, they wouldn't give up easily. Ready. This time we won't fail. Reminded by Meowth, who was in charge of the surveillance, Jessie excitedly licked her lips. Chapter 48 Saving Zioxia, A Touch of the Soul. Boom, a loud explosion rang out. Just as Ash and Misty were looking for a place to rest, Jessie and her group attacked not far behind them. Why didn't Ash and Misty go directly to the Pokémon Center to rest? Well, that was, of course, Mu Chen's insistence. He was joking. What if Ash, that idiot, just casually tossed him into the hands of that fat, blissful egg? They just hadn't expected to be attacked so suddenly when they reached a relatively secluded street. Instinctively, Ash pressed Pikachu firmly to his shoulder as he crouched down. This was his starter Pokémon, and Ash would protect it at all costs. Because of exhaustion, Mu Chen's reaction was a beat slower. When the explosion came, Mu Chen was completely stunned. After all, they were in Vermilion Town. Who would have thought they'd be attacked here? Still bewildered, pinned down by Ash, Mu Chen was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? What's going on? Are they crazy? Holy crap! This isn't a town. Do they really think Officer Jenny is a pushover? Mu Chen was completely baffled by this situation. He knew this basic common sense. Officer Jenny guards every town in the league. Even when facing powerful enemies, she can always request reinforcements from the league, asking them to send powerful trainers to assist. Attacks in towns like this are truly rare. And today, they just happened to witness this unusual attack. Beep beep, random mission. Rescue Misty, who has been captured by Team Rocket. Time limit: 30 minutes. Mission reward: gain the skill Agility. Failure penalty: your affinity with Misty resets to 0, your travel party will lose Misty forever. Holy crap! What the hell? Just as Mu Chen was still in a daze, the system's electronic voice suddenly rang in his mind. Misty? Captured by Team Rocket? I'll F you. Who the hell dares to capture my Misty? At this moment, the furious Mu Chen didn't even have time to pay attention to the mission's rewards or penalties. What the hell? Do you think I'd just watch Misty get kidnapped? Cough, cough, cough. Pikachu, are you alright? Just then, Ash's voice rang out. Awakened by Ash's voice, Mu Chen realized that Ash had been hit in the back by a sudden blast. Looking at Ash's wounds and bloodied body, Mu Chen's heart skipped a beat. This idiot is actually really good to me. You know, facing such a sudden explosion, it's not impossible to lose your life. But Ash, in a split second, disregarded his own safety and chose to protect him. Although Mu Chen likes girls, and even more so, he likes doing some naughty things with them. But, at the same time, he's a man, and not the kind of man without any conscience. How could Mu Chen not be moved by Ash's protection? But unfortunately, Mu Chen didn't have much time to spend with Ash. Pika, sorry, brother, wait for me to come back. Licking the blood from Ash's temple, Mu Chen sprinted off in the direction indicated by the system. Pikachu? Where are you going? Ignoring the calls from behind, ignoring his near-exhausted strength, Mu Chen focused solely on running. Although, his eyes were already glistening with tears. Only half an hour had passed, and several minutes had already gone by. Mu Chen knew his time was running out. Meanwhile, not far ahead of Mu Chen, Musashi was carrying the unconscious Misty on her shoulder, running at breakneck speed. Musashi, Kajiro won't be able to hold them off for long. Officer Jenny and the others will be here soon after hearing the explosion. Why did you bring this little girl along? Meow. It's important to know that Kajiro had gone alone to create chaos and distract Officer Jenny's main force to buy Musashi and the others enough time to escape the scene, all in order to successfully ambush Ash and the others. What Meow Meow couldn't understand was why Musashi had captured this little girl at such a crucial moment. Wasn't their goal the little girl's Starmie? What do you know? This little girl has several Pokémon. Who knows which Pokéball contains Starmie? If we open it on the spot and make a mistake, a battle is inevitable, which will only delay things further. Musashi, the leader, naturally had her reasons for carrying Misty away. Meow, are you sure? Meow, hearing Musashi's words, Meow Meow was speechless. Good heavens! Couldn't you just take all of this little girl's Pokéballs? Taking a few Pokéballs would be better than carrying a living person, right? They only wanted to rob Pokémon, not kill anyone. But looking at Musashi's serious expression, Meow Meow simply couldn't bring herself to say those words. After all, she and Musashi were partners. If word got out, wouldn't that be too much of a blow? Anyway, they'd already escaped a considerable distance. Even if Officer Jenny arrived, she'd definitely head straight for the explosion site, giving them plenty of time to escape. Thinking this, Meowth's worries immediately subsided. Let Musashi be happy. In any case, their objective had been successfully achieved. However, the increasingly relieved Meowth was unaware that behind them, a furious Pikachu was chasing them relentlessly. Pikachu, I'm waiting for you. Waiting for you to come back. Waiting for you to come back with Misty. Meanwhile, after Mu Chen left, Ash finally realized that Misty, who had been by his side, had disappeared. Although he didn't understand what had happened, Ash wasn't stupid. Clearly, This sudden attack was aimed at them. And the attacker's goal was to kidnap Misty. Therefore, Ash felt no resentment towards Pikachu's sudden departure. Pikachu, it's going to save our partner, to save Misty. As for whether Pikachu can defeat its opponent? Just kidding. Ash, with his inexplicably confident mind, has never doubted that his starter Pokémon could possibly fail. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Zioxia, wait for me. Little brat, you better behave yourself. By this time, Zioxia had regained her senses. After all, the trio's goal was to kidnap Pokémon, not to harm anyone, so the cannonball wasn't very powerful. It only had the effect of stunning people. Of course, nothing is absolute. Ash was injured simply because the shockwave from the explosion swept other objects around him onto his body. Now that she was awake, Zioxia naturally realized the danger she was in. Unfortunately, her hands were bound, and even her mouth was gagged. All Zioxia could do was kick Musashi's long legs against her shoulders, trying to break free. But it was all in vain. In fact, Zioxia's resistance displeased Musashi. The little girl's constant resistance greatly slowed Musashi's escape. Zioxia naturally wouldn't obey Musashi's orders. Even after hearing Jessie's words, Misty's resistance intensified. Finally, Jessie, unable to bear it any longer, used her ultimate move. Little brat. This is my last warning. If you dare to move again, I'll strip you naked and throw you out on the street. As a woman, Jessie naturally understood women's weaknesses. Sure enough, after hearing Jessie's words, Misty immediately quieted down. However, tears began to flow uncontrollably from Misty's eyes. Who could have imagined that on a pleasant trip, especially after just challenging the gym, she would encounter this in town? The thought of being kidnapped by the villains of Team Rocket, and never being able to see her sisters again, Ash, or that little rascal Pikachu again, overwhelmed Misty with grief. Pika Pika, just as Misty was in despair, a familiar cry came from around the corner of the street. Pikachu. Hearing this familiar voice, Misty's despairing eyes instantly regained their light. Yes. It must be Pikachu. When she was accidentally injured by Gary's war turtle, Pikachu angrily stood up for her, so what's more, in this situation? With hope, Misty naturally rallied again. Her long legs began kicking wildly once more. At least this could slow down Jessie, giving Pikachu more time to catch up, right? Damn it. You little brat, are you really going to force me to strip you naked? She'd only just calmed down, and now she was at it again. This time, Jessie was truly enraged. Damn it. I've already used this powerful move that even I'm afraid of. Surely it won't scare a little girl? Jessie, did you hear that? There seems to be a sound behind us. Meow. Compared to Jessie, Meowth's hearing was significantly more acute. Misty could hear it because she was completely desperate, her mind was blank, and she was very familiar with Pikachu's voice. Musashi couldn't hear it because she was already drenched in sweat from carrying Misty while running, and had no time to pay attention to anything else. Meanwhile, Meowth also heard Pikachu's faint cry coming from behind. Oh no. Hearing Meowth's words to Musashi, Misty felt extremely nervous. If they noticed, wouldn't Pikachu be in danger? Others might not know, but Misty knew perfectly well that Pikachu was in very bad shape. The thought of Pikachu being ambushed made Misty panic. But unfortunately, her hands were tied and her mouth was gagged, so she was helpless. Fortunately, just as Misty was in a state of extreme anxiety, Musashi's words put her mind at ease. Meowth, are you hallucinating? Where's that sound? Let's hurry, we're almost out of the city. Once we're out of the city, we'll be completely safe. I wonder how Kajiro is doing. Meowth, could you try contacting him and ask what's going on? Having run so far without encountering any interception, Musashi had completely lost her guard. Meowth, but I really think I heard something. Could it be that I really misheard? Never mind, Meowth. Seeing Musashi's confidence, Meowth began to doubt herself. Could it be that I really misheard? Never mind, I'll contact Kajiro anyway. After thinking it over, Meowth ultimately chose to believe Musashi's judgment. After all, they'd run so far, how could anyone be chasing them? Logically speaking, even if Kajiro couldn't hold them off, Officer Jenny and the others would definitely go to the scene to find out what was happening, right? After countless failures, Team Rocket was also growing stronger. But unfortunately, they still underestimated their opponents too much. Pikachu. By this time, Mu Chen was already drenched in sweat, but he didn't stop at all. Instead, he quickened his pace. This was because, at the end of the previous street corner, Mu Chen had already seen Jessie and Meowth, and Misty being carried on Jessie's shoulder. Mu Chen knew that if he failed to rescue Misty this time, he would regret it for the rest of his life. This wasn't because of any system mission, nor because he had lost someone to take advantage of. It was simply because Mu Chen knew that the reason all of this had happened was because of him. If it weren't for him, how could Team Rocket's target be Misty? At first, Mu Chen didn't understand, but after thinking about it, he understood. Team Rocket looked down on him simply because he wasn't the real Pikachu from the anime. In Team Rocket's eyes, he was just a weakling. And it was precisely for this reason that Team Rocket, who should have been capturing him, targeted Misty instead. A deep sense of self-reproach washed over him. Mu Chen's heart was already filled with regret. If it weren't for his laziness, if he had been more diligent, if he had been stronger, how could Xiaoxia have encountered such a calamity? At this moment, Mu Chen's desire for power was stronger than ever before. Pikachu? I have a system. Even if I'm not the real Pikachu, one day in the future, I will definitely surpass you, surpass that Pikachu from the anime. At this moment, the feeling of fatigue had disappeared from Mu Chen's body. Xiaoxia. Wait for me. On a secluded street in Vermilion Town, a Pikachu, as if its entire body had been soaked in water, was running wildly. Chapter 50 finally caught up. Damn it. How could this be? It's you, you yellow-skinned rat, meow. I knew I heard a sound, meow. At this moment, Musashi's face was filled with disbelief. In contrast, Meowth looked as if it hadn't expected it. The one who made Musashi and Meowth show such different expressions was our male protagonist, Mu Chen. At this moment, Mu Chen, who had successfully caught up with Musashi, looked as if his entire body had just been pulled out of the water. But, even so, Mu Chen did not hesitate for a moment, nor did he pant for a second. Go, Arbok, let this yellow-skinned rat see how powerful you are. In Musashi's mind, Mu Chen was still the same weakling she had been before. Her Arbok had failed once because of carelessness. But it would never fail a second time. Chaba, summoned by Musashi, Arbok narrowed its snake eyes, facing the Pikachu standing in front of it, its forked tongue flicking in and out, revealing its cruelty. Pikachu, you think you can act tough? You think I'm afraid of you? Seeing Arbok dare to show him that expression, Mu Chen was instantly enraged. Cruel? Today I'll show you what true cruelty is. Sizzle, sparks of electricity began to leap on Mu Chen's cheeks. Clearly, facing this Arbok that dared to pose with him, Mu Chen's decision was to deliver a 100,000 volt attack. But an unexpected thing happened. The 100,000 volt attack, which was usually ready to be used at any time, no longer obeyed Mu Chen's commands this time. It malfunctioned. No matter how hard Mu Chen tried to unleash the electricity gathered in his cheeks, it seemed to be deliberately defying him, refusing to fire. Pikachu, holy crap. What's going on? The sudden malfunction left Mu Chen completely dumbfounded. What the hell, why can't I unleash my skill? He could clearly feel a considerable electric current gathering on his cheeks, yet he couldn't use it. Having never encountered this situation before, Mu Chen couldn't find any reason. But how could Mu Chen know? He had already been overexerted during the battle against Raichu. Now, being able to chase this far was only due to the fire in his heart, the sheer willpower that sustained him. Now that he had successfully caught up with Musashi and seen Misty safe and sound, the fire in Mu Chen's heart had long since died down. Just being able to stand was a feat. How could he possibly have the ability to unleash a move like Thunderbolt? Arbok, attack. Use bite. Musashi, of course, had no idea what Mu Chen was up to. Seeing that this yellow-skinned rat wasn't attacking but instead engaging in a tactical standoff with Arbok, Musashi lost patience. I don't have time to waste here. If I delay any longer, Officer Jenny will arrive, and that won't be fun. Chaba, with a sharp screech, Arbok launched itself at Mu Chen the moment Musashi gave the command. It opened its massive, scarlet maw, drool dripping from its fangs. Pika, holy crap. Unable to unleash his thunderbolt, Arbok pounced again. Mu Chen, of course, wasn't going to be reckless and choose to meet it head-on. Damn it, if it bit me, I'd be in big trouble. With a swift turn, Mu Chen left Arbok with a graceful silhouette, instantly disappearing in the same direction he'd come from. Ha ha ha. I thought this yellow-skinned rat was all that capable, is that all? Hilarious. Let's go, Meowth, let's keep going. Seeing Mu Chen flee in terror after just one Arbok attack, Musashi burst into loud laughter. Meow, Musashi. You should have attacked harder like that before, then we wouldn't always be losing. Meow. Similarly, seeing Pikachu fleeing in disarray, Meowth didn't think much of it. However, they didn't notice that the determination in Misty's eyes, even though she was bound, hadn't faded. Musashi and the others didn't understand Pikachu, but how could Misty not? Misty knew that this little guy's intelligence was definitely no less than a human's. Right now, it wasn't running away, it had some other mischievous idea. Of course, knowing this clearly, Misty would never warn Musashi. Pikachu, just as Musashi recalled Arbok and prepared to carry Misty away, Pikachu's cry suddenly rang out. This time, the sound came from above Musashi and Meowth's heads. It turned out that Mu Chen, having discovered he couldn't use Thunderbolt, had immediately changed his tactics. Now, in poor condition, a direct confrontation was probably out of the question. But Misty was captured, how could I possibly give up? After escaping Musashi and the other sight, Mu Chen decisively turned back and ran back. However, this time Mu Chen didn't choose to show himself directly. After all, he couldn't use Thunderbolt, and to defeat Musashi and Meowth with just electric shock, he would have to catch them off guard. With Arbok's strong interception, Mu Chen had no chance to launch a sneak attack. Therefore, while Musashi was taunting him, he quietly climbed a tree. Finally, Musashi, having lowered his guard, recalled Arbok. And this was the moment Mu Chen had been waiting for. Musashi? HMPH. I'll show you what it means to be terrifying when you fall from the sky. Although Mu Chen had some thoughts about Musashi before, those thoughts vanished immediately after Misty was kidnapped. So what if she's a pretty girl? So what if she's wearing a miniskirt? So what if she's wearing tall boots? You dare kidnap my Misty? I'll take your life. When Mu Chen first arrived in this world, his behavior was so pathetic, his infatuation with young women stemming from his complete lack of experience. Suddenly given the opportunity, especially through the adorable Pikachu form, a persona he wouldn't easily reveal, he naturally indulged himself. However, he's been in this world for a while now. Having seen and experienced more, the initial novelty has gradually worn off. While he still feels passionate about young women, he can now clearly distinguish who his true allies are and who deserves his protection. Now, Musashi's kidnapping of Xiaoxia has completely crossed a line for Mu Chen. And Mu Chen's attitude towards those who dare to offend him is, those who offend me, though far away, will be punished. Musashi? Young women? All bullshit. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.